Afternoon, everybody. It's not even morning. It's good afternoon. I wanted to come in really quick and give you a quick Dr. Boyce daily update on the stock market. A lot of you saw that the stock market took a little bit of a dip today, and I want to give you some profit alerts that will help you to navigate what's coming up and, kind of wonder, could there be a recession? Is this something to worry about? Is this much ado about nothing? So anyway, as you come in, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe if you have not done that yet. And also, if you want to receive a free copy of my training, How to Make Money Without Working, pull out your phone, text the word money, MONEY, to 87948. Text money to 87948. Stick around to the end of the video. I'll give you some stocks you can invest in that'll help you get ahead. All right. So here's what I want to do in terms of this profit alert. For this profit alert, I want to talk about what happened today and how I tend to respond to dips. My philosophy on investing is I tend to buy the dips. The reason I buy the dips is because as a finance professor who's gone through, tons and tons of data on the stock market, I can tell you without question that the data pretty much says that buying the dip on a broad portfolio of stocks is the best way to overcome a temporary decline. Most declines don't last forever. But they do happen, and sometimes they're hard to stomach. So I was out buying dips. I went shopping, and actually I started making money really quickly because a lot of times the market tends to overreact. And so why did the market dip today? Well, a big part of the reason the market dipped had to do with Walmart. Walmart had a weak economic outlook. They beat the earnings expectations, actually. They delivered 66 cents per share versus 64 cents, which was expected. And so that's pretty good, right? They made $180 billion in revenue in one freaking quarter. How crazy is that? But what they did was they gave a really cautious forecast for fiscal year 2026. They pretty much said that they expect sales growth of 3 to 4%, as opposed to 3.5 to 5.5%, which is what Walmart expected, or what the analysts expected. So as a result, Walmart stock took a little bit of a tumble. So what I'm going to do is give you just sort of a foreshadowing of what I'm going to say. I'm buying Walmart stock. I'm buying Walmart. Walmart's down. It's in the dip. And I'm just letting you guys know, just because I want everybody who's black and intelligent should be buying stock. Even if you're white and intelligent, I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, or whatever, you should be buying stock. I talk to black people though, because y'all the ones who really need y'all need black wealth experts. So because black wealth is not the same as white wealth, but at the same time, I don't discriminate against anybody. We do have a DEI program, and I do let people in. With that being said, Walmart, I think, is a tremendous buy because Walmart took a little bit of a dip. I don't know how far it dipped today, though. It might have actually recovered. If it did, I might have missed an opportunity. So let me see if I can look and see where the stock is. It might have actually literally recovered from its entire drop, which would suck. Okay, no, it didn't. Okay, great. It dropped 6.5% today. It's down to $97.21 per share. And what I'm gonna try to do is maybe share my screen, but I can't. You know what? I would share it, but it will waste your time. So let me just say, I like Walmart. I like Walmart. I like Walmart. This is not investing advice, but I like Walmart. I like Walmart. I like Walmart. Why do I like Walmart? Why do you keep repeating yourself, Boyce? I don't know. Let me explain. I like Walmart a lot because Walmart is a company that is gonna keep making money during a recession. Walmart knows how to make that bread. Even when you have your last nickel in your pocket. You think about why do you go to Walmart when you're broke? You go there when you're broke because there's still hope for you. There's still hope that you can buy something, even if you got 45 cents in your pocket. So Walmart's a special stock, right? It's a beautiful company. It gives you a lot of opportunities on the upside, and it's a company that has done really well in terms of making money. If you look at the history of Walmart, the last year, this stock has returned 65.8%. That's kind of crazy. That's a warning sign, though, because that means that it could have a long way to fall. But if you were a consistent investor in Walmart, you would have made a ton of money. If you'd have been investing in Walmart consistently for the last 5 years, you would have tripled your money. You would have sorry, not tripled. Scratch that. You would have more than doubled your money. You would have got a 150% ROI. You could have bought the shares for about 40 in the beginning 5 years ago. Now they're trading almost at 100. So Walmart is just one of those behemoths that knows how to make money. And I'm a big fan of Walmart. I love what they do. And so let me give you some other things happening in the economy that you may want to worry about and kind of think about. Not worry. I'm not telling you to worry, but this is what the market is thinking about. One, there's an issue with tariffs. As you know, Trump has talked a lot about tariffs. Tariffs have the upside of protecting local industries. I think a lot of local jobs get created from tariffs, right? It was getting rid of tariffs that killed a lot of the manufacturing bases in Milwaukee and Gary, Indiana, and Toledo, Ohio, and Detroit. However, The downside of tariffs is that they can be inflationary. They can push the prices of goods up. They can slow down international trade. And remember, a lot of the goods that are sold also have inputs that the producer has to buy. So the producer is also a consumer to some extent. They buy these inputs in order to make the output. So it's really a complex situation. So even though Trump makes it simple and says, I'm going to put tariffs, I'm going to put tariffs on Mexico, I'm going to put tariffs on Canada, I'm going to put tariffs on everybody, it's not as simple as you think. And I really don't think that he's going to like all the results that he gets from the tariffs, because most economics experts will tell you that tariffs are not good for global GDP. But however, the reason I'm not totally mad about the idea of tariffs is because sometimes you can sacrifice global GDP to help the working man or the working woman. If I could drop US GDP by 10% in exchange for an increase of 10% in the minimum wage, I would do that in a second. Right? Because just because America's making money, which America's very good at making money, that doesn't mean everybody's making money. Do you follow what I'm saying? Do you all get what I'm saying? Just because we say, well, all of America's better and the GDP is higher and the economy is doing great, that don't mean everybody's doing great. Because y'all know what I'm talking about. You remember during the pandemic, they were like, oh my God, the economy's booming. And it's blah, blah. Well, it was booming if you own stock. It was booming if you own real estate. It was booming if you owned a business. It wasn't booming if you were an employee. It wasn't booming if you were a consumer, right? So really, this is one of the reasons why I consistently beg you on behalf of your children to make sure you're consistent stock investors. You know, you were raised to chase jobs and chase careers, but you should have been chasing wealth, because chasing a job and chasing wealth are not the same thing. Chasing a job and chasing wealth are not the same thing. So chase wealth, don't chase the job. Cut out the middleman. All right, so let me keep going here. Let me give you some more things going on in the economy. So Walmart's what they give guidance for 2026, it's pretty much what pulled the market down. So the market dropped quite a bit. And this could be the beginning of more. Now the market's kind of waiting to see like what the other retailers are going to say. So Walmart is kind of a bellwether. So since the stock dropped down today, there's kind of a cautious tone that hits the other retail giants, which was they were already kind of nervous. So the question is what, in terms of what catalysts could continue could continue to drop this market. Well, if other big companies come along and they say, yeah, we see what Walmart's seeing. Yeah, things don't look good for us too. Then that could be a real problem. That could really pull things down. Remember when you see a dip, I told you guys my philosophy on investing is I buy the dip. And the only reason I buy the dip is because I'm a long-term investor. I'm thinking about Walmart not as something I'm going to sell next Tuesday. I think of Walmart as something I'm going to give to my grandkids, right? So when you're thinking long-term, you won't remember today. You won't remember this week. You'll barely remember this year. When it's 2042, you're not going to remember a whole lot about 2024. And so ultimately, that having that long-term perspective is what really matters. Now, there's also kind of a fatigue that they said kind of in the tech sector that's sort of happening. NVIDIA is going to release earnings next week, I think February 26th. That's a big deal because of what happened with DeepSeek and the question of whether or not all that money that they're spending on AI is worth it. If NVIDIA comes in with crunchy numbers, if their numbers come in kind of sloppy, kind of wobbly, then expect the market to take another nosedive. That could be a big problem if that occurs. If you believe that's going to happen, then maybe that's a chance to make some money. Maybe you buy some put options on NVIDIA or some other stock in the tech sector and make some money off that. It's up to you to decide how you want to play that. Also, Walmart's drop can tie to issues related to a potential recession worry. So retail sales dropped by 0.9%. So consumer sentiment is shaky. So consumers are not feeling confident. Consumers are not feeling as bold as they might have felt before. So if the jobs data on February 21st, tomorrow, is bad, then that could be another catalyst that pulls the market down. But let me tell you, though, remember, the Federal Reserve steps in and all they pretty much do is they jump in and they fix everything. So they kind of rig the whole game for rich people. This is not a free market economy. Don't ever think that it is. This is a rigged economy. This is no different from a state-driven China, almost like what China does, like we claim like we're different from China. We have free markets. No, we don't. We don't. The Fed steps in. They'll lower interest rates if the recession hits, and then the market will rally once those interest rates are reduced. That's kind of how we do things because we have fiat money, and fiat money is pretty much worthless. It's just a bunch of pieces of paper that are backed by full faith in the U.S. government. that should make you nervous. If that makes you nervous, it probably should. So if that bothers you, then maybe you want to own some other assets that are a little more real. You own some gold, you own some Bitcoin, you own some maybe some stocks and real estate, because things like that tend to go up in value as your currency drops in value. The dollar's not going to collapse tomorrow, so stop listening to conspiracy theories. But there is a concern that we tend to get a little bit happy and jumpy when it comes to manipulating the economy. Now, do me a favor, tomorrow morning, I want to remind you, actually, I forgot. Yeah, tomorrow I can't do money in the morning, our money class that we do every single day. I was going to invite you guys tomorrow, but I can't because I'm going to be on an airplane and I can't do my class from an airplane. So please forgive me. And holy shit, excuse my French. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cuss. I got to tell my team that that I am flying tomorrow. And I can't make anything tomorrow. That's crazy. Let me, y'all I know it's ghetto, but I gotta really tell them. Okay, I just realized I have to fly in the morning, so I can't make class. Okay, so if you want to join our morning class, take a second and get your phone out and text the word morning to the number 87948, or go to drboyceelevate.com, and you'll like the class. It's called Money in the Morning. It's the art of economic or financial consciousness, economic elevation. That's what we train on. And I know you guys are going to like it, because I guarantee you that if you become more financially conscious, you will find that money tends to lead itself into your pocket. And it's very important to kind of understand how that works. So what I'll do is look at a couple of your questions really quick, and we'll and then we'll kind of bounce out for today. Okay. All right, guys. So let me see here. Let me hop up in here and see what I can say I said I saw. Okay. So thank you, Dr. Flipmo, for your patience. I appreciate that. By the way, this podcast is on Spotify. So if you go to Spotify and look up my name, you can find me there. CNBC says Walmart is starting to go after higher income shoppers. Yeah, they are. They are. I don't know if they're going to pull it off, but I think they're probably a little bit jealous of Target, because Target, they became Target, and they became kind of like the upscale Walmart, basically. So I don't know if it's going to work, but I do go to Walmart a lot, and I noticed that they do have like nicer stuff. Like my dream when I was broke, my big dream when I had no money was literally like to have enough money that I could go into Walmart and buy whatever I want. Like I could get $200 worth of stuff and not even have to look at the total. That was my dream. Or to go to the movies and get the $5 popcorn, the $5 drink, and then get like a bag of Twizzlers, and maybe even like some food to go with it, like some nachos or something, or a hot dog, and don't judge me. Sorry. And then not have to worry about the cost. Like that was all I had. That was my only financial dream. My money doesn't mean that much to me, to be honest with you, but money is a type of power, right? Money can allow you to do things. It can allow you to move things out of the way. It can allow you to do the things that are going to help your mental health. So I would encourage you to, get some money so you can sort of enjoy your life a little bit better. Michael says, February 11, 2025, you did the morning stock class. I was lacking. Could we run that back? I'll buy it right now, please. If you want to join our stock class, just go to drboycestockmarket.com, and you can join us. It's a stock market investors club, and the first month is 100% totally free. So feel free to go to drboycestockmarket.com. That class has been around for about 10 years. Everyone loves it, and I know you'll love it too. I wrote my dissertation on the stock market, so I teach a little bit differently from everyone else. There's a lot of people that say that they understand the stock market, but it's like the difference between somebody who can drive a car versus somebody who was a NASCAR driver / mechanic / engineer who could design a car, right? Like it's like a whole different level of understanding. So there's a lot of dynamics that go into the creation of a stock price that most people will never understand. But I think it's important to understand that so that you're not surprised when certain things happen. Now, let me see here. Michael says that's a huge discount. Yeah, well, good. I'm glad you like the discount. Yeah, the first month is totally free. It costs you nothing. So try it the first month. Is Oklo still a buy? I'm not going to tell you that it's a buy, but I am going to tell you that I'm buying more. And in fact, actually, now that you mention it, I'm going to go buy some more Oklo. Oklo it became a little bit like a meme stock. It's an energy company that Sam Altman was invested in. I bought it because Altman was involved with it. And it's made me like tens of thousands of dollars since I bought into it. I told you guys about it when we first looked at it. Now it's about 42 something. I think we started talking about it when it was about 18 or 19. And Oklo took a dip today. And as I'm looking at Oklo now, it looks like it's down just a tiny bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and buy me some more shares of Oklo. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. All right. So here we go. Preview order. All right. So I just bought me some more shares of Oklo. Oklo is one of my favorite stocks. If you like to sell options on a stock, Oklo is a great stock for selling options with it. The ticker symbol is OKLO, OKLO. And I'm not telling you what to buy. I don't give investing advice, but that's what I'm buying myself. And so anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys have a good night. I didn't want to take much of your time. I just want to come in for a few minutes. And I just want to remind you, if you want to join us in class, just text the word morning to the number 87948. Also, you can get an autographed copy of my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. We decided to offer that for a good price. The regular price for an autographed copy is $40. You can get a copy for $8. But all I ask is that you consider being part of our Each One Teach One process. Our Each One Teach One is where if you have extra money around, if you have $100 or whatever, buy like a bunch of copies and give them away to the kids in the neighborhood, right? We have to educate our own kids. We got to educate our own people. Those folks at those public schools are not going to do it. They're not going to introduce them to these concepts. I'm seen as dangerous, and I don't know why. I think I'm a nice guy. I went to public schools. I taught at Syracuse. What makes me dangerous is that I love Black people and I love my community. That's what makes them afraid of me. So if you want to return the favor, again, you can buy that book for $8, and I'll sign it for you. Our middle child, Nicole, will ship it, package it, and ship it to your house, and it'll have my signature in there. If you want to even make it into a business, you could take that $8 book, resell it. I know you probably have friends that know who Dr. Boyce Watkins is, and you could say, I've got autographed copies of Dr. Boyce Watkins' book. We're going to have a book club, and I'm going to give everybody a copy, but you got to pay $30 for your book. That's okay. Let them, they should pay you something for your time and your energy, right? So it's fine to do that. Like I'm not going to get mad about that, right? So feel free to take a look. So you can go to 10commandments.boycewatkins.com if you want to take a look at the offer. And there's the URL on the screen, Queen Todd. It's 10commandments.boycewatkins.com. And that's something I just thought about, and I hope that you'll consider being a part of that, because my goal is to create an educational system for all of us, for our people. And I really believe that we can do that, but we have to work at it. And so I don't teach any students. I only teach teachers. So I would like for you to become a teacher. So anyway, let's see here. Don says, can you get your money out easily? In the stock market, yes, you can. In the stock market, you can sell as fast as you purchase. It just buy like S&P 500 companies. That's what you want to stick with. You don't want to go with these shifty, shady companies like your cousin says, buy this stock and it's only a nickel. Well, a lot of times those are what they call pink sheet stocks, or when they give you a crypto, where the crypto is only 25 cents. That's not really an investment. You're kind of gambling at that point. It's okay to gamble. Everyone does it sometimes. Maybe I do sometimes, but gambling is not the same as investing. So if you want to be an investor, consistent investor, do something good for your kids, get them some ownership in Walmart, get them some ownership in Amazon, get them some ownership in Microsoft, get them some ownership in Ford, get them some ownership in great American companies that know how to make money. And if you don't have all the money that you want, that's okay. You're going to probably make, everybody in this room is probably going to make at least $500,000 or more over the next decade. And most of you in this room are going to make tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. The number will be even higher if you are an investor. I guarantee you that. But even if you don't invest, you're going to make a ton. You're going to make money. You're going to spend a ton of money. If I was to take all the money that you spent on fast food, going out to eat, going on trips, going to the movies, or anything that you do with your spare time, your car note, whatever it is, I bet you it would be a pretty large amount of money. So I would say do that for the family, do that for the kids. Just add the stock investments as part of your regular routine. Don't change anything. Just make sure you're taking care of you first. You matter. Your family matters. Your kids matter. Nobody else matters more than your kids. So handle that. So again, if you want to get discounted copies of my book, you don't have to buy. You can only buy one. You can buy one if you want to for $8. But if you want to buy like 20 of them while the sale is going, feel free to do that. We'll print them out. I'll sign them all. My hand is tired because I've signed thousands of books because you guys have really responded strongly. So feel free to do that. Make it into a business. Right? If this is your jam, if this is your thing, I encourage you, let's go into business together. Let's do this damn thing. We are Black. We are powerful. We can do anything we want. I ain't waiting for massa to do nothing for me. I don't think you should either. So anyway, that's it, guys. I'm out of here. How do you start investing? If you go to blackwealthmasterplan.com, that'll introduce you to the $5 a day program. That's blackwealthmasterplan.com. Or you can go to drboystockmarket.com. There's beginner stuff in there as well. What do I think about Broadcom? I like Broadcom. I like that company. I see you've asked about it a couple of times, Jackie, so I apologize for not getting your question. But yeah, I do like Broadcom a lot. Dollar cost average Alejandrina, did I say that right? Alejandrina Eduardo. What a great name. Let's see here. How did you just buy Oklo? It's after hours. Limit price? Yes, Jen. I made an order inside E-Trade, and after hours, you can put up a limit price, which is the max that you're willing to pay. And then as soon as the market opens, they execute your order. Let's see here. What stock did you pick? I think today I bought some of Walmart and Oklo. Those are the two that I picked. If you're in the stock market program, I put a list of other stocks under what Dr. Boyce is buying. So feel free to look at that. Let's see here. Who do you suggest I start with to purchase stock? I'm new to this. Well, Danielle, let me tell you, you could do one thing and get rich in 20 years. If you do one thing, if you open up a Robinhood account and you consistently invest in a mutual fund like SPY or VOO, Sierra Papa Yankee or Victor Oscar, and you just put like, say, $100 a week or $50 a week or whatever you can afford into that account, and you don't sell, then in 15 to 20 years, you'll have more money than most of your friends. It's very easy to do. You don't have to know anything about investing. I guarantee you. Let's see here. Can't wait to join you in Miami. Yeah, Kim, I can't wait to see you there as well. The Miami trip is coming. I only invited members of Money in the Morning in our morning class because I kind of want people there that kind of know what we're trying to do. I want serious people there that have been introduced to these ideas. I know that sometimes they want me. I had people tell me like, you got to be more relevant. You got to connect to the general population. And I'm like, no, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to be, I'm not like those, you ever see those preachers that start like rapping just so they can like be relatable to everybody? Or they start doing Kendrick Lamar dances. I saw this pastor doing a Kendrick Lamar dance and he looked so ridiculous. And I'm like, just be who the heck you are. Like, to me, if you're in church, you're supposed to be about God. You ain't supposed to be about hip hop. If you're in church, I'm not hating on it. Don't get me wrong, but that's a pet peeve of mine is when you see somebody, and this happens a lot in our community. I think it happens in a lot of communities, but you'll see people that are in their 50s acting like teenagers trying to relate to a 20-year-old. I'm not a 20-year-old. I'm a grown-ass man. I'm 53, and I'm proud to be 53. I'm going to be a damn 53-year-old, and I'm going to share perspectives that come from the mind of a 53-year-old college professor, not from a 20-year-old with no education. I know they put the uneducated people in the front. I know that they put the buffoonery out there for everybody to see, but I'm not here to imitate buffoons. A king does not imitate the clown. So if that means that fewer people are going to relate to what I'm doing, that's okay. And maybe they'll grow up. Maybe they'll eventually see it. You can't tell me that we're wrong because I got the data supporting this. I've told you the stock market is the number one wealth builder in the history of the world. So if you are black and you want money, then you should know about the stock market. I know more about the stock market than 99.9% of all people on this planet. I wrote a whole freaking dissertation on this topic at The Ohio State University. So don't play with me. I'm not doing that. I'm just not doing that. So that's where I am. So that's it. So anyway, am I coming to Houston? Not anytime soon. We're gonna do the convention later, and that's it. And we're also gonna do something in Tulsa for Black Wall Street. That's out of respect for the people in the Greenwood section of Oklahoma. Let's see. Yeah. SPY and VOO. Absolutely. Those are two that you can get started with. And literally a person could just stick with those two stocks and just do that for the next 20 years and be wealthier than somebody who doesn't invest. That's how crazy it is. Like, you would really think like you got to be able to jump around and dabble and move around and do this and do that. You don't have to do all that when it comes to stocks. You literally could just pick a couple of mutual funds you like, put money in there consistently, don't sell, and then one day, 5-10 years later, you've got all this money. It's really that straightforward. You'd be amazed at how simple stock market investing is. People get scared because they make it complicated. And the reason it gets made complicated is because people who don't understand the dynamics of how markets work, they make it sound complicated, I think, because they don't understand. Like, they don't know what I know. So some financial advisor maybe wants to impress you by using long, complicated words and everything else, and they get distracted by the minutia. When I think about stock market investing, there are a couple of simple theories that I pay attention to that guide most of my conversations. One is the efficient markets hypothesis. The other one's called the random walk hypothesis. And what basically these theories say is that you really can't predict what a stock's going to do, so stop trying. And number two, it says that if you are, if you are buying a stock at a certain price, chances are you're paying the price that stock is worth based on existing information. So what does that mean? That means that a monkey could invest in the stock market and make more money than a person who doesn't invest. Literally, a monkey could randomly pick stocks. Burton Malkiel did that experiment in 1971. He tested monkeys, and he had monkeys invest, and the monkeys made as much money as the Wall Street experts. And people were like, oh my God, how can a monkey make more money than a person? Because the monkeys don't overthink it. The monkeys don't talk themselves out of it. The monkeys don't let fear guide their choices. They weren't even making a financial decision. They were just doing what their trainer told them to do. So just be as smart as the monkeys. That's it. Don't overthink it. Invest consistently. Don't let these little dips scare you. It's just, QQQ. Alicia, I love QQQ. I own some of that. What's the name of the stock class that I can purchase? Let's see. Oh, yeah, drboycestockmarket.com. Now, Dr. Boyce Coin is our options certification program. We're starting that soon. We're going to do our first cohort. It's 12 weeks of stock options from A to Z. If you want to talk to someone, you got to apply for that because it's more for people that really want to go serious and really want to get certified in stock options. So if you want to learn stock options from A to Z, go to drboycecoin.com. Or you can also go to drboycestockmarket.com if you want to jump in our stock market program. It's really popular. All right. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to get on out of here. And thank you for hanging out with me late at night. I appreciate it. And, Kim, there is no hotel code for Miami. We found out that we cannot give a hotel discount in Miami. So I apologize for that. We talked to the hotel, and they literally could not give that to us. So, yeah, so that's that. All right, so I'm going to get out of here, guys. So have a good night. God bless you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening. And again, don't forget this is on Spotify as well. So sometimes I put stuff on there. So follow me on Spotify. Without y'all like distributing my stuff, like no one would hear it. I'm totally I think I'm totally shadow banned like everywhere or something. I don't know. It's crazy when you have millions of followers and you have a hard time reaching them. That's literally my story on YouTube and stuff. Is like I have to build my own audience and reach out to you directly because for whatever reason the algorithm does not. It's like, yeah, we'll give you 500,000 subscribers, but we'll only message like 8 people or something, right? So it's it's really an uphill battle. But I think part of it's also because I have certain friends that were really controversial during the pandemic, and I'm not letting go of those friends. Like Rizza Islam's a friend of mine, and he came on and he talked about those vaccines and everything and what he thought about it. And I said, I know I'm going to get in trouble for this. I'm probably going to get shadow banned for this because they were shadow banning everybody, taking down platforms, all kinds of stuff if you didn't go along with Dr. Fauci. But I said, look, I don't know if you're right or wrong, but I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear every perspective because I think that this is important. I don't want to just hear what Big Pharma has to say. I want to hear what everybody has to say, right? And I also don't want to hear about how you can deal with an outbreak. I want to hear how you can prevent the pre-existing conditions that everybody's talking about. How come we don't talk about preventing health problems instead of like waiting till they get bad? That's capitalism for you. Capitalism, they will sell you the diabetes medication in the front of the store and then sell you they'll sell you the donuts in the front of the store and the diabetes medication in the back. Like they'll literally sell you stuff that'll make you sick and then sell you drugs that'll help you manage your sickness. So capitalism, unfortunately, in America is something that you want to disconnect from to a point, but you want to understand it well enough to go in and get yours and get out. Grab yours and bounce. That means get your bread, take care of your family, buy your real estate, buy your stocks, own your assets so you can liberate yourself so you don't have to go to the corporate plantation and all that stuff and then disconnect from that because capitalism is not a healthy thing. That's why America, in most studies, America is a country that actually has the highest incomes per capita, but the absolute worst mental and physical health on earth, like of industrialized countries. Our families are in shambles. Our physical health is garbage. Everybody's fat and getting sick. Our mental health is gone, like especially these kids. Have anybody even noticed like how all the Gen Zs are like flaking out and freaking out over every little thing? Most of them have anxiety. It's like, what are you anxious about? You ain't gone through nothing, right? That's how I feel. I'm old school. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Get it together, man. But they're struggling. They're really struggling. So we gotta, I think you gotta fix that. We gotta address that, right? So because money ain't no fun if everything else in your life is falling apart. So this is why I encourage you to do, love each other, be good to yourself, be good to other people, make good friends, take care of your body, take care of your mind, and then go get that money so you can enjoy your life. How about that? Give me a yes in the chat if we're on the same page. Let me know if that's cool. All right. So let's see. Okay. So last question. Does coin include buying and day trading stock options? I do not dig into the day trading stuff in coin. but I will show you everything you need to know if you want it to go in that direction, right? So I'm not really big into the day trading because that's not really my thing. That's not really something that consistently makes money, but you'll know enough such that if you want to go digging into day trading on stock options or swing trading or whatever you want to do, you'll be able to do that. So if you'd like to apply to coin, feel free to go to drboycecoin.com. The team's waiting. They'll talk to you about it. It has a little bit of a higher price point, so just be ready for that. But if you're interested and you're serious about it and you want to go deeper, it's 12 straight weeks. Once a week, we dig into options and I cover everything from A to Z. I think you guys will like it. So anyway, have a good day. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Money in the Morning. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. This is our millionaire training camp where we practice the art of financial consciousness and economic elevation. I hope everybody's doing well today. We do this 7 days a week because we are serious about our wealth. This is for people that really want to level up. This is for people that are tired of being broke. This is for people that are tired of generational curses. This is for people that look around and say, okay, we can do better. We deserve better. We're going to do better, right? Not just saying we're going to do better, but we actually want to do better. So just a reminder of what this class does and what it means and why we get together. I don't want you to ever forget that. I want you to know the why you're doing something rather than just the what and the who and the how and all that other stuff. So anyway, all right. So I'm sending out the text message now to let you guys know that we're starting now. Now, here's the thing. You may want, if you sign up for the Zoom, you may want to also check your email to get the reminder because sometimes I may not send out the text, right? So I'd hate for you to miss if if you're waiting for the text message because sometimes I may not send that out. But I try to do it whenever I can. But just so you know, we're a small operation with a small, brilliant team of black people. And so sometimes you ain't got all the money to do everything you want to do. Literally every little thing that we do costs money. So, but I'm determined to do it right because I believe black people should have our own institutions. I believe that we should be educating ourselves and each other. I don't believe that we have benefited from being educated by our oppressor who just sits there and sucks money out of us like a vacuum cleaner. You know what I mean? I feel like it's just downright dastardly and criminal that we sit there and when you try to sit back and you say, how do black people lose all their money? There's a sinister process in this. There's because I mean we go back to the basic idea that if you work hard, you're supposed to, you're supposed to like gain stuff, right? Like when you like if you run a race and you run 10 miles, you're supposed to have 10 miles under your belt. You see what I mean? Like if I run 10 miles and I have a little chart that gives me that measures like the number of miles I've run, almost like wealth, right? Maybe people who've been running for a long time have a lot of miles. People who just started don't have that many miles. So if I run 10 miles, I should have a plus 10 in my travel account, right? But imagine if you're running if you ran 37 marathons and then you look at your travel account and they say you went 1 inch. You've been running your whole life. You ran 50 years straight. You ran 488 miles, and they're literally like, no, you get credit for 1 inch. Wouldn't that make you say, like, what? Wait a minute, what's going on here? This game is rigged. This ain't right. Right? Do you agree with me? Tell me if you follow the analogy. I hope you get the analogy. I use analogies all the time. That's just how I think. Do you get the analogy? Because instead of running, it's working. It's working, right? You work hard. Most of you in here work hard. Most of you in here have worked your whole entire life. Most of you in here have done your thousands and thousands of miles of hard labor, on the corporate plantation. And when you look at your bank balance, I don't know if your bank balance always reflects the amount of work that you put in, the amount of distance you traveled isn't stored properly, right? It's like you've been running on a treadmill and you've been running really hard on the treadmill. And one thing about treadmills is really interesting. This is something I learned when I was watching, how you scrolling through YouTube and you find random videos with random facts that are really interesting. Well, one thing that they said, this is really interesting. They said that back in the 19th century, treadmills were not designed for exercise. The first treadmills that were designed were actually designed for punishment of prison inmates. Did y'all know that? That treadmills were used to punish inmates by making them walk and run the entire day, right? So they were getting in great shape, but they were exhausted. You couldn't stop walking. You couldn't stop running no matter what. And do you know that what they did with the treadmill, what they did with all this energy was they used that to power their generators, right? So it wasn't like they just had them running just for punishment. They said, we need to make the inmates run so that we can have electricity in or whatever they had back then. I don't know how good the electricity was in the 19th century, but they're basically like, okay, if these people stop running, then we won't have energy. We won't have the energy that we need in order for us to live a comfortable life. So really, when I see you running on the treadmill, when I see you, going to the corporate plantation, grinding like crazy, and putting out all this energy, and then you look back and you say, "Gosh, but there's nothing that I really have to show for it." One thing you have to understand is that there's a basic law of physics, and I'm probably going to say it wrong. So if you're a physicist, forgive me for my ignorance. But you've probably heard this. How many of you have heard that energy is neither created nor destroyed? Anybody ever heard that? The energy is not created nor destroyed. It just changes hands. It just goes from one form to another, one person to another, one power source to another, right? So the energy that you put out, all that hard work you put in, going to the corporate plantation every day, that energy didn't die just because your bank account's empty. That energy's out there. But the problem is that you've been running on this treadmill to power other people's lives. That's what you've been doing. And the reason this occurs is because we have not still yet, in my opinion, embraced financial literacy and economic intelligence as a core value in the Black community. We have a lot of people that have. We have a lot of people that have, but we still have a long way to go. We still have a lot of people who think this stuff is boring, who don't want to listen, don't want to hear it. And then what happens is bad things happen to them. They have an economic disaster and they're like, oh my God, woe is me. It's so hard to be Black. They did it to us again. We end up feeling like we're supposed to be like the Keystone Cops. Like they tricked it at us again. The white man tricked it at us again because I'm too stupid to be able to be smart. He tricked it in me. He tricked it in me. Um, well, maybe they didn't really trick you. Maybe you just weren't being conscious of your situation. Maybe people tricked you because you weren't paying attention, right? Like if I'm sitting there, I remember I had a friend one time who told me, he said, this is a guy, when you're young, you got friends that are into all kinds of stuff. And he said, he came to me, he told me, he said, man, I had a great day today. I said, well, what happened today? And he said, I found a wallet. I was walking and there was guys sitting on the porch and one guy had left his wallet just sitting there. And he said, I grabbed it and I put it in my pocket and I took my shirt off so that they wouldn't identify that it was me. And he walked away with this wallet, which obviously is a problem, right? I'm like, dude, you're running around stealing people's wallets. You can't do that. But y'all, you know how it is. We all got little ratchet friends doing stupid stuff. And I was, but I think about that, right? Because the reason he stole this wallet was not because he's a master thief. My friend was not a smart person. Clearly, he's not smart because he run around stealing people's wallets. He wasn't some criminal mastermind. He wasn't a genius that would plan a bank heist over 6 months and break into a casino in Monte Carlo. He just took advantage of the fact that they weren't paying attention. Put it in his pocket, walked away. That's what he did. They weren't conscious of what was going on with the wallet, and by the time they realized the wallet was gone, well, by then the wallet was gone, right? And so, I can tell you if you want to talk about why we don't have financial security and why we end up putting so much energy into things that don't give a payoff, I think a lot of it's because our financial consciousness could be a little bit stronger. Right, like again, once I get somebody to walk up and write a check for $100 million, first thing I'm going to do is create a series of schools with basic, very simple educational processes that would literally increase Black wealth by $2 trillion within a generation. Because what's happened is that it's not to say that you don't know how to work hard. You do know how to work hard. You've even got a little bit of integration working in your favor, where if you show up and you do a good job, there are companies that will still give you an opportunity. There are also ways to start businesses. There's ways to go out here and get money. The stock market does not have a whites only sign on the stock market. The stock market's the greatest wealth generator in America. So there's nothing stopping you from participating in the stock market. And really, it would be very easy actually to increase Black wealth, but people would just have to kind of sit down and do what we tell them to do. You got to let go of a lot of bad habits. And so anyway, with that being said, before I begin, I want to mention, don't forget that we're going to do the event in Miami, and it's going to be March 7th. So we're going to meet live. It's going to be the Millionaire Training Camp live, and we got a bunch of people coming. So if you want to come to Miami, I'm going to put the link for Miami right here in this chat. So if you want to go, if you buy the pass, and in fact, if you buy your pass right now, put something in the chat to let me know that your ticket process went through okay. We had a couple of technical difficulties before. Some of y'all might have seen that, and I want to make sure that that everything's okay with that. So I'm gonna put this in the chat section. So here is, and one thing I want you to mention, I said this when I sent it out via text. I don't, as much as I appreciate those of you that want to bring any and everybody to the event, you can bring like your relatives or close friends, as long as you take responsibility for your cousin and them. But I'm not marketing this to the general public because we've been doing this together for a while, and there's a line of thinking. You have to be serious about wealth, and you have to be willing to think outside the box. For it to be for you. If one thing that we don't do, like we honestly had one event where we had to put a lady out because her energy was so negative and she was complaining and mad and being mean to people and all that. And that's just not the energy that I want in my space. I don't want nasty people. I don't want negative people. If someone has a question, they can bring the question or whatever, and we can fix it. But just all that chaos, there's too much chaos in our community. I don't want no parts of it. So I'm inviting you. So there's a reason. My marketing team was like, well, do you want us to market it to everybody in the black community? I'm like, no, because the whole black community ain't ready. We got too much ratchetness and craziness out here, and I'm not a person that is equipped to work with people that are determined to be ratchet and crazy. It doesn't mean I don't have empathy for you. It doesn't mean I won't talk to you if you'll listen. But I'm a college professor and I teach who wants to be taught. I don't teach people who don't want to be taught. I'm not going to fight people um, who don't want what we're talking about, right? So this is for those who kind of understand why we're doing it. So the link is right there in the chat. So if you go in and you buy your pass now, say something in the chat to let me know that you got your pass and it worked out okay. Or if you bought it yesterday, let me know. I just want to make sure that the system is working all right. And so with that being said, let's move on to the next topic. So here's the thing I wanted to talk about as well. This morning I had this crazy incident with our youngest daughter. Taylor, I call her Tater, aka Tay Tay. So Tay Tay has this interesting, crazy habit of like walking out the front door in the morning because she's rushing and she's not ready to leave, and she leaves the front door wide open sometimes. She literally left this morning, and she's done it 2 or 3 times before, and it's like 2 degrees outside, and so when she leaves super early. So the front door would be wide open, the whole living room is like 5 degrees because this girl runs out the front door and leaves the door open. And so I took a picture of the door and I put it in our family chat thread, and I said, Taylor, stop this. Like prepare, make sure that you're ready so that you're not rushing out the front door every morning and leaving the door wide open. So what I thought about was I said, you know what? Okay, what conversation am I going to have with her? How do I handle that as a parent? How do I make sure that, okay, Valerie, I see you said you got your ticket. Okay, so you didn't have any issues with it. Okay, that's good. Thank you for telling me that. So I was kind of like, okay, how do I talk to her about this without being mean and making her feel bad and make this into a lesson? Because there's a deeper lesson with this and that we've been sort of covering. And one thing I've always told her is preparation is the key to success. And I've told her before, and I'm gonna tell her again, because that's what being a parent is, or even being a CEO is repetition. The CEO of Domino's Pizza, they asked him, they said, well, how did you build your company? He said, I just basically repeated myself for 10 years straight. Okay. So basically the message that I will repeat, but I'll say it in a different way, is look, you're stressed out in the morning. Because I've seen her in tears. You know how you got kids and everything's going crazy in the morning. There's a lot of screaming and yelling and crying and everything, right? So I've told her, and I'm gonna tell her again, look, the reason you're stressed out when it's time to leave is because you didn't prepare. You knew the bus was coming at 6:30. You decided you want to get dressed at 6:50, 6:29. Okay. That's not gonna work for you. And what I also told her was I said, that actually applies to life. I know a lot of people who are really stressed out in their lives because they did not prepare. They did not get ready for the future. The future was coming. They knew it was coming. They were 25. Every math equation on earth tells them that when you're 25, at some point, you're supposed to be 35 and 45 and 55, but they didn't think about it because they were caught in the moment and they did no preparation. The preparation might be in terms of health. Maybe they're 50, 52 years old, getting, in the hospital getting surgery or dying in the hospital because they didn't take care of their body. Maybe they are dealing with financial stress because even though they had plenty of money, when they had plenty of money, they didn't invest any of it. They didn't want to hear none of that. They just wanted to enjoy their money. Maybe they didn't prepare in terms of family. When I'm young, I'm just going to go and have fun and live my best life. I'm not thinking about kids. Kids are a burden. A spouse is a burden. I'm not investing in any of that. I'm going to invest in me. Like a lot of people use, you ever hear people use those terms like,
I'm going to invest in me. I'm the most important investment I can make in me. Me. That it sounds like a like an opera. Me, right? And I'm not saying you shouldn't invest in you, right? Investing in me or investing in you, sure, that's an important part of the process, but also investing in other people is should be part of it too, right? Everything doesn't start and end with you. And remember, one of the problems with capitalism is kind of a an individual sport most of the time. Some of it's a team sport. Some of it's gang affiliated. You know, smart people in capitalism that build wealth, they form teams, they form gangs, like they call them corporations, and they accumulate massive amounts of wealth or family investment clubs, right? But a lot of Americanized thinking, so I won't call it capitalism, I'll call it Americanized thinking, is me, what I want is what matters. What makes me happy is what's going to matter all the time, no matter what, right? I put me first. I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't put me first. I don't. Now, me gets to eat. Boyce is going to be taken care of, but I just don't put Boyce first all the time. I put my kids first. I put my wife first. There have been times where I've come in and put you guys first, even when I didn't feel like being here. I said, let me get out of bed so we can do this, right? So that just that basic idea of putting me first and investing in me and focusing only on me all the time, I think I encourage you to kind of balance that. Right now, let's get back to the idea of preparation. Let's talk specifically about financial preparation. And in case you're new, I want you to understand every conversation we have in here is about wealth. Every single conversation we've ever had in here is about wealth. The biggest thing to remember is that most wealth does not show up in the form of money. Most investment has nothing to do with money. Most investment involves things that are more valuable than money. Where do you invest your time? Where do you invest your energy? Where do you invest your attention? Where do you invest your love? Where do you invest your youth? All these things. So you can translate that back to money, but the reason that talking about money is very limiting is because some of you don't have as much money as you'd want to have. And that's okay. It's all right. But that doesn't mean you're not wealthy. That you can be very wealthy and have no money. Some people are so poor that all they have is money. I feel sorry for someone who has $1 million in the bank and they have no good relationships. Their health has deteriorated. Their mental health is shot. Why would you want to trade places with a person like that? That's a terrible life. Okay. So remember, it's all a portfolio. That's what this is. So with that said, what I noticed, and this is the conversation I'm going to have with our daughter when I talk to her, is that there's a lot of people who struggle when hard times come because they did not prepare for hard times. They struggle when an economic crisis arrives because they never took the time to do basic things like making investments or creating financial security that would that would therefore allow them to be economically safe in the event of a catastrophe or a calamity. Now, if you want to understand financial security and ways to kind of know if you're financially secure, I thought I would sort of grab a list of the things that regulators look for in banks to make sure banks are financially secure. There's a whole list of regulations that banks have to follow to make sure that they can survive in a crisis. Okay. First thing that they look at is they look at whether or not the bank has enough of a cash cushion. Do they have enough what they call capital reserves, which is basically like your emergency savings, or just some assets that are liquid that you can sell or something or somewhere you can go to get cash in case something bad happens. Right. So that's the first thing they look at with banks. Number two, they simulate crises. They say, well, what if there's a crisis? Can you still pay your bills in a crisis? So for you, the crisis might be losing your job. And so a big question to know if you're financially secure is to say, can I pay my bills in a crisis? And if so, for how long can I pay those bills? So if you want some examples of where financial security might come into play, if you just by being married and having a two income household, that right there is part of your security. You can say, well, we can live, we have our bills set where we can live off one person's salary. And that means that you've made yourself more financially secure than the person who is paying all the bills and doesn't have any savings or any investments or anything like that. All right. Also, there's another thing that they measure is basically how much do they owe compared to how much they own, and they would call that a leverage ratio. Now, a lot of times, I sat on a panel with this great guy that I like named 19 Keys down in Georgia, And we were both down there to support a school that was created by a guy named King Randall. Everybody acts like it takes 20 years to build a school. King Randall built his school in 6 months with almost no money. When I first heard about what King Randall was doing, my wife and I wrote him a check for $3,000. We can't support everything that we want to do, but I saw him and I said, okay, I want to support this guy because our black boys need guidance, they need support. And so anyway, I went down to support his school. Was on this panel. 19 Keys was on the panel, and they were talking about debt. And this was back maybe 20, maybe like before the pandemic, I guess. And there was a discussion where one guy was kind of like more conservative. He's from the South, and he said, "I don't like debt." He was more like, "I don't like debt. I don't like debt." He had a country, the country accent. I love my country folks, by the way. If you're from the South, I ain't gonna lie. If you're not from the South, everybody thinks everybody in the South is ignorant and racist. That is not true. The nicest people that you'll ever meet are in the South, white and black. There's a few exceptions, of course, but I'm gonna tell you, the worst racism I ever experienced was when I went to New York, because they're the racists that are in denial. They swear they're not racist because they don't act like Southern people. But Lord Jesus, when I was at Syracuse, I said, you don't even know how screwed up you are. So whereas in the South, it's kind of like maybe they'll go out of their way, like they see the black guy and they want to be extra nice to the black guy because they know that you think that because he drives a pickup truck and has a shotgun on the back that he's looking to hunt black people. Yeah, I'm gonna just tell you, I ain't gonna lie. That's been my experience. Now I know experiences vary, but that's been my experience, right? So anyway, in fact, one time I was on a show. It was the Dr. Drew show in California, and there was this guy on there. He had a big long beard, and he was like the type of guy that like raised his whole family on a farm. He had like 14 kids, and they would like eat the cows and chickens and pigs on the farm and all the vegetables and all that. And it was crazy. Like he looked like the biggest hillbilly that you could ever imagine. But this guy was super nice. He's like, yeah, why don't you come on down and I can make you some ham and eggs and have make you a good country breakfast. It was so funny. Anyway, it was great. So anyway, so with that being said. I don't even know why I brought that. I know I brought it up, but let's get back to it. Let's focus, boys. All right. So basically, when you're talking about financial security, a big question that's asked is, if something goes wrong, there we go. I know what it was. 19 keys in debt. Sorry. Let me make sure I finish telling that story because we were talking about the country guy and I got off on the tangent. So my apologies for that. So the country guy on the panel was more conservative and he was more like my dad. My dad is like, I don't want debt if I don't need it. And there are some people who understand what debt can be used for. Debt is not bad, it's not good. Debt is just very powerful. Debt creates leverage. Leverage is like a slingshot. A slingshot can propel you very far, but it can also propel you very far in the other direction. It's like a seesaw. Leverage is like a seesaw. A seesaw can put you very high up or it can put you very way, way, way down. Some people don't like the seesaw. So this guy said, I get rid of all debt as quick as I can. I heard 19 Keys, he felt differently. He said, like he almost seemed to say that you're crazy if you don't use debt. You have to use debt because why would you sit your money in the bank and not earn any interest when you could have your money invested and make money from that and stuff like that? And I just listened to him go back and forth. And then I kind of just stepped in and I said, actually, there's nothing wrong with what either one of you said, but what you're both saying is heavily dependent on not just economic conditions, but also on risk tolerance and risk preferences. Both of you have a strategy that works for you. So what I said with 19 Keys is I said you like risk, and that's okay. You probably make money from your debt, but I said but if something happens and the Fed increases interest rates, that could cause some economic problems. Or if the economy turns south, that will put you in a tough spot. Like a lot of the real estate developers got hit really, really hard when they were over leveraged during the pandemic. When the pandemic hit and they started increasing interest rates, a lot of these real estate companies were going bankrupt because they'd spent the last decade accumulating so much debt. Has anybody ever heard of a company called Evergreen in China? Anybody heard of Evergreen? Evergreen is a massive real estate company. I think it's bigger than damn near every company in America. And they literally had something like $500 billion in debt. And they were building all these cities. They had all this capacity, all these like they would build a whole city and nobody lived in it yet. Like that was how crazy it was. So Evergreen ended up defaulting on their debt and having financial problems, which almost tanked the entire Chinese economy. So so basically leverage is something to pay close attention to. Debt can do good things for you, but you got to make sure it's good debt, not bad debt. Also, you want to monitor that debt. And if you're a person that feels like debt is just something you don't want to deal with, then I say go for that. That's okay it's okay to feel that way. Another thing that banks look at is can you survive a disaster, basically? So what you can do is you can say, okay, what are all my streams of income? And what if all my streams of income suddenly stopped? And in fact, what if all my investments went south? Right? Like what if all the stocks I own dropped by 30% and I lost my job and my business started going south? What would that scenario look like? And that's tough to kind of imagine. But just taking the time to kind of think that through and seeing if you can make an emergency plan for those situations. Like, okay, you might say, okay, our plan would be we're going to cut our costs by 40%. We're going to also, focus on investing in a different way. Maybe you invest in terms of time instead of money, right? Maybe we're not going to use cash unless we have to, but we'll use other resources to get things done. Or maybe our business will end up having to let some people go for a little while or whatever. Just having some kind of trip mechanism that you can put in place to help you survive the disaster. Because a lot of navigating the economy is like being a captain of a ship where you're sailing through waters that can be calm sometimes and sometimes they can be stormy. And what I have observed is that when times are good, people don't necessarily have the inclination to imagine what life will be like if times are bad, right? And so when bad times hit, they end up being shocked and devastated. And I think that this is why it should be just mandatory for every black child to have basic financial literacy, so you can know all the different levers you can pull financially in case something goes wrong. If you grow up and all you know how to do is fill out a job application and live paycheck to paycheck while you're paying rent to your landlord and spending your weekends buying consumer products, you're kind of fried. You're wired into the system like a cyborg on Star Trek, and if that system does not serve you, if that system decides, hey, we don't care about DEI, we don't like you people anymore. If that system decides, we got this thing called AI now, so we're going to lay off 40% of the workforce, it becomes like a really tough situation. It creates a lot of other things that go into the realm of what my wife does in our Black financial therapy department. She does a lot of work on financial anxiety and financial stress and depression and things that people experience and financial trauma. It can become very traumatic and create a tremendous amount of anxiety when things go wrong. And the way you kind of prepare for that is you have to think about these things in advance. If you think about them as they're happening, like if you're reacting as it's happening and that's all you do, it's going to be really hard. Like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So when I go back and I talk to my daughter, I'm not just going to talk to her about preparing when she gets up in the morning so that she doesn't have to leave the front door wide open when she's running out the door. I'm going to talk to her about life. And I'm going to literally just say, I'm going to tell you, my goal as your dad is to make sure you're happy. That's it. I just want you to be happy. I don't care what profession you pick. I don't give a damn about professions and all that stuff. You don't define yourself by your job. Who the hell told you that? I don't believe that. I just want you to be happy, right? And content with your life. And one thing that will threaten your contentment is a lack of preparation overall. So if you focus as much energy on preparation as we do on everything else, then I think that it would allow us to have a much better existence, and not just in terms of money, but just really better. It's just in terms of how we feel about life, how we feel about our situation, right? So that's pretty much it. That was my thought for today. I hope that this discussion was helpful to you. Just a quick reminder, here's the link again if you want to come join us in Miami on March 7th. I'm putting the link in here just and yet another reminder, please don't pass it around to a bunch of people because I kind of I only want to meet you guys. That's it. I don't, maybe the All Black National Convention, other people can come to that, but this is for you guys. We did it just for you. So I hope you'll come down. And if you can't make it, let us know why. We'd like to figure out how we can make it easier for you because I'd love to see you down there. Second of all, tonight we are meeting, the real estate club is meeting. You saw our guest yesterday, who is a masterful expert on multifamily property. And I know that there's a lot of multifamily stuff out there that costs thousands of dollars to be a part of and stuff like that. Well, literally, here's a link. If you want to join our real estate club, you can join for you guys. You can join for $21 a month, actually. So there's the link right there. So feel free to take a look at that link and decide if you want to be a part of it. We bring a guest in once a month, and it's really good stuff. And the last but not least is my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. We made autographed copies of that book available for literally just $8. You pay $8 plus the shipping. I will sign the book, and our middle daughter will mail it to your house. I know this because I've been signing books, so many books this week that my hands are cramped and tired. But I'm extremely appreciative that you guys want to read the book. And the reason I want to offer it for $8 is because I don't want the price to be a barrier. For you, I need this message out there, and I really hope that you will embrace that idea of each one teach one, right? So, what we did with Powernomics, me and my wife, is that I didn't just buy one copy or two copies. We bought like 50 copies, and we gave them away at our wedding, right? Because we got to educate our own. We have to educate our own people. They're not going to educate our people on basic ideas that are going to make sure that we're good and we're safe. So I feel like it's our job to do that, right? So if you like the 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, which it's kind of like an economic version of Biggie's 10 Crack Commandments, except when I'm not talking about crack. I'm talking about it's like the 10 Black Commandments in a way. So basically, it's like 10 rules that if you follow these basic rules, you train these rules to your children, your family will have a much, much higher level of generational wealth within less than a decade. So feel free. The URL is right there in the chat. And in case you didn't see that, the URL is 10commandments.boycewatkins.com. So that's the number 10, 10commandments.boycewatkins.com. You can get a copy, get as many as you want. We can keep printing them and sending them out. And I just really want everybody that wants to understand how this economic game works to have some simple reference you can go to that will help you understand how this stuff works. I don't think that regular financial knowledge really applies for Black people because our experience is so unique. We have so many hurdles to deal with. We have so many things to figure out, social issues in our families. I just sat last night with Jeff Lightsey Jr., who's a friend of mine, a young Black man, and he said I'm 29, or he's 29. He said and he just became a dad, and he said, man, since I've become a dad of my son, I'm starting to notice so many other Black males that are making crazy decisions, that are just doing things that are ruining their kids, splattering babies everywhere, making bad decisions. And I talked to him about it. I said, yeah, I said, this is a real issue. This is a real problem. It's a real problem when the overwhelming majority or big percentage of Black people, when they talk about their father, don't have good things to say. And I'm not making fun of you if you're in that category or stereotyping, but y'all know, I'm sure most of y'all know somebody who didn't do right by their kids, right? And I said, this is how can you build off this? You can't build a community where a large percentage of the men are unsturdy. And I said, pay attention now. When you look at the most famous, most celebrated white men in America, you see tech CEOs like Elon Musk and the president of the United States, Donald Trump. You see billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg. When you see the most famous Black men in America, you see comedians, rappers, and athletes, none of whom possess the cultural skills typically that are designed to build a community. I'm not saying that every athlete's an idiot. I'm not saying every rapper's stupid. I'm not saying that at all. Right? We got the D1s and the Kendrick Lamars and the athletes that are making smart choices. But the question that I would ask you is, name one rapper, athlete, or comedian who has ever created a company that created 100,000 jobs for the Black community. Just name one. Name one who's ever created and built a Black-owned company that created 100,000 jobs, where they went back to their old neighborhood and said, everybody in my neighborhood is employed now because I went out and I got together with my white friends and we borrowed $1 billion and we started an industry with thousands of jobs, right? They're not even thinking about that. They're not even, it's not even in their sphere of consciousness. What's in their sphere of consciousness is, look at me, I'm getting attention now, and I become a some sort of symbolic, some sort of symbolic entity that represents quote unquote Black success. But really, there's no. When I look at Drewski Too Funny, there's nothing about him that says like, oh yeah, I want my kids to grow up and be like that. Not to say he's a bad guy, but it's just like, on what criteria? Like what are you creating that is actually benefiting the community? And when I talk like that, some people get mad. They say I'm a hater or whatever, and I don't care. It doesn't matter. Maybe I am a hater. I hate the idea that the Black man is looked at as an imbecile and a child. I hate the fact that we're looked at like when everybody sits down to dinner at the table of decision making, they put the Black men at the children's table. Like, no, you're not building rocket ships to Mars. You're not here to make international policy decisions. You're not here to run, $100 billion corporations. Go sit over there and make us laugh. Make me laugh, boy. Tell me, bust a rap, boy. You're such a good rapper. Call yourself an Igga while you're at it. I like it when you call yourself the N word. That sounds really great. But if you do that to Jewish people, then that's a problem. But you can call Black people the N word all day long. They kind of like that, and that's just and we like it too. We cheer for that, right? So does anybody else kind of think that's a little bit weird that we live in a society that claims to reject racism, but rappers will just call Black people the N word all day long? They can't do that to Jewish people, by the way. You do that to Jewish people, you'll get canceled. They can call black people the N-word all day long, and literally there'll be a stadium full of white people cheering. Like, do you understand that? Or have we gotten so demented that we really try to rationalize something that clearly doesn't make any sense? So, I don't know how much of a catalyst I can be in helping to restructure how black men view ourselves, but I'm going to do my best. And one thing I try to do is set a good example. When I see myself as a man, I think about, am I taking care of my wife and my kids? Am I providing opportunities and opening doors for other people in my community? Am I reading books and learning things and doing my best to make sure that others are going to grow and be educated? Am I scaling the knowledge that I have so that others will have a better life when it's done? Those are the things that I look at, right? So anyway, long story short, that was the conversation I had with Jeff, and I thought I would share that. And I told him, I said, man, I'm really proud of you. I said, because your son, I said, what you got to understand, man, is that when you are a father, first of all, that's literally the most important job you'll ever do. Don't ever think that there's another job you'll do that's more important than being a father. All these guys that abandon their kids so they can go become a famous rapper, they're gonna regret it. Like look at all the guys now who have kids that have grown up and they're going on the internet blasting their parents because their parents never tried, right? Because they thought that being famous meant that everything was okay. And now Jay-Z's got a little son that looks just like him that's saying, I hate you. You're my father. You need to take the DNA test because you screwed my mom when she was 16. That's a real thing, right? The chickens come home to roost. Your past always catches back up with you. But I said, as a father, you are a superhero until you prove yourself otherwise. In the eyes of your children, you're a superhero until you act like you're a loser. And then the kid identifies that and they're like, my dad's a loser. And he said, yeah, I knew a guy who beat up his father. And he said, I can't imagine punching my dad. I said, yeah, me either. Because my dad was a real man like your dad was. But if you don't respect him, then it's like, yeah, I'm gonna punch you out because you're a bum, you're a loser, right? And so I really think that as a sense of pride, and I'm talking about everybody, not just black men, but I think it's a sense of pride. We have to figure out what the problem is here and really start building the kinds of men that can really build and elevate and defend the community. I think women play a real role in this as well, because a lot of these boys that are jacked up were raised in houses where their mama did everything, right? And maybe mama thought that the father wasn't necessary, the father wasn't a requirement, and now everyone thinks your baby's a bum except for you, right? So I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I'm here to tell you 100%. Again, with my wife being a family therapist, you cannot solve the black wealth problem until you solve the black family problem. You cannot solve the black wealth problem until you solve the black family problem. And you'll never solve the black family problem with the whole black community. I believe that's too big of a job. But you can solve the black family problem in your life, in your specific life. You can make a choice about what kind of person you're going to be, what ideas you're going to embrace, how you're going to navigate this world, what choices you're going to make. Right. So, and the same thing is true with your kids. You have a lot of influence over them. And I think having these conversations, I think really goes a long way with kids. So that's my 2 cents. I hope that that was helpful. And again, all this links back to wealth again, because there's no community in the history of the world that's ever been able to build wealth without strong families. So there you go. There's a factoid for you right there. There's no community ever in history that was like, oh yeah, we're really rich, but our families are in shambles. Doesn't happen. So anyway, guys, I'm out of here. Have a good day. God bless you. Thank you so much for hanging out. And again, if you want the $8 copy of my book, I can sign it and ship it to you. Just go to 10commandments.boycewatkins.com. The number 10commandments.boycewatkins.com. I'll see you guys soon. Have a wonderful day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Welcome. It's so good to see you. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I am here with the one and only, the extraordinary, the amazing, the incredible, the little Stephen A. Smith. That's what I call him. He ain't little. He's a big dog. Jeff Lightsey Jr. How you doing today, man?
I am doing swell as always, Dr. Boyce. I appreciate you for having me.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, man. So I wanted to hop in and talk about, and you were the first person that came to mind. There was an interesting interaction between Barack Obama and Anthony Edwards, who plays for the Timberwolves. And it came to my attention because a lot of people felt that he kind of insulted Barack a little bit. He kind of, sort of kind of sunned him a little bit or didn't show deference to who Barack actually is. And I was wondering if you saw that. Did you see kind of what went down there?
I did. I saw the interaction between Obama and Ant, and I didn't take it that way. I didn't take it as him sunning Obama or anything. I think he may have felt slighted a little bit, right? Like, I mean, Obama was trying to make a joke, right? Like, he's like, oh man, this guy can hoop a little bit, can't he? And Ant was like, nah, this ain't no joking matter. It ain't no little bit about what I do, right? like I said, I'm the truth. He's basically like, I'm the truth. Like, it's no, no beef, no issue, but I can't hoop a little bit. Maybe Ant may have taken a little too serious, little not as lighthearted as Obama took it, but he just had to let the former president know, like, there's no anything little about my game, right? Like, I'm the truth, and every one of these guys know it, and I kind of liked it. I kind of liked it.
Really? Okay. Well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the clip. I'm going to try to see if I can share my screen, and just a warning to everybody. Whenever I try to share my screen, I always mess stuff up. And I want to say hello to Jermaine, Trusty, Dupree, Wade, and everybody else. I see you, and let me know if you guys can hear me okay. I am under the weather today, and so I'm not going to be on here long, but I just really wanted to talk about this because I thought it would be an interesting discussion. I got some thoughts, but I'm not going to share them just yet. I'm going to kind of let the conversation flow naturally. So let me see if I can pull this up, and okay, let's see here. Let me see if I can find the video. Man, you know what? It's so funny when you got too many tabs open, you just mess things up. So as I'm finding the video, here's what I'm gonna say. I kind of wondered if there was like a little bit of awkwardness in that interaction, right? Like, I kind of got a sense that Barack Obama's kind of used to people bowing when he comes in the room, right? People kind of looking at him like he's the goatiest of all goats, and not to politicize it, but there are some people who would say, yeah, you're kind of the goat, but you're like an old goat. You know what I mean? and I wonder if that, kind of came up as well. So I'm gonna try to see if I can share this. This is on my Twitter. My Twitter is Dr. Boyce Watkins 1. Let me know if you guys can hear this video. Give me a yes in the chat if you can hear it. Let's see if we can play it. I'm gonna play it for a second, then I'm gonna pause it to see if you guys can hear it. Here we go.
What do you think about this young guy? He can hoop a little bit, huh? A little bit, huh? Y'all better stand down. I'm the truth.
Can y'all hear that? Jeff?
Yeah, we can hear it. Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay, cool. All right, here we go. Let's keep going.
He's the truth. He said it's the truth. Yeah.
He boy know.
I guess.
He cold though. I gotta give him credit. He give up 50 every time we play him.
I mean,
like I ain't 7 foot.
And y'all got 2 7-footers and he's still
Hold on.
Huh?
I'm talking. We ain't gonna do all that.
No, I'm just saying.
3 7-footers.
He got 3. That's right. Because he got 9
credit.
credit.
I told you that. I said
He did.
I gave him credit.
I remember that. Okay, LeBron. No, listen. Are y'all talking to this young man? Because he just keeps on. Right now, he just said he's the truth and all that, and the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
What he said. You asked him. You tell him the whole context of the situation, though. You asked him what he think about this young man, and he said, "I'm okay." I said, "I'm the truth." That's what happened.
Nothing wrong with it. Say nothing wrong with it. Gotta have that.
Yeah, that man, the truth.
Gotta have a little swag like that.
He ain't lying. Hey, Reese, what that is right there? Strawberry lemonade? It got like no. Oh, I'll take one of those.
There you go. That's everybody. Way to go, young man.
Yeah,
see the old guys still like, nah. Hear you.
Okay, so let me, Jeff. After seeing what you just saw, what's your take on that? Like, how do you respond in terms of like what did you notice about the video?
There's a few things. One, it kind of played out like I said. I think Obama was trying to like joke and butter Ant up, and Ant was that like one thing. He's a jokester. They did the Starting Five documentary Netflix did, and he featured in it. And he likes to joke, play video games, all that stuff. But one thing he don't play about is his game. Right, like he wants his just due. He feels like he's one of the better players in the league. He feels like he's deservedly so being there with those guys. And so when Obama's trying to make a joke, right, like kind of like not hazing so much, but Ant's like the young guy on the team. So it's kind of cracked like, oh, this guy can hoop a little bit, can he? And he's like, hold on now, we can joke about a lot of stuff, but ain't no hoop a little bit. I'm one of them ones. Like, I feel like I'm the best out of all these dudes. This is LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, MVPs, championships, all this stuff. And I feel like I'm better than them. So ain't no I hoop a little bit. And then you heard what he said to GMB. You lucky I ain't 7 foot, or you wouldn't be getting off on us neither. Like, you know what I mean? And when Obama brings it over to LeBron and KD's kind of like, ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with what he said. Like, because KD's kind of like of the same similar ilk, same cloth. They kind of speak the same language in that regard. And I, like I said, I kind of quite enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a little bit.
Well, you know, I get it, right? I get it. You know, to play at that level, you got to have confidence. There's no question about it. And I think the reason it came to my attention is because I saw online where people had kind of politicized it. You know, they kind of politicized it as, you know, as, okay, this shows Barack Obama doesn't relate to young black men. They don't respect him. They don't care who he is. And this, you know, if you recall, there was a lot of conversation about how, you know, about that time when Barack kind of came out to get black men to vote for Kamala Harris. And a lot of black men were like, why? Like, where you been and what have you done for us to show that you are one of us, that you care about us, so you're not just here to use us. And I saw that. And I'm going to tell you, I felt like, even though I agree with that sentiment, I do agree that Obama, you know, I think he overplayed his hand in terms of his influence over young black men. At the same time, I kind of felt like people were a little bit harsh in terms of, you know, in terms of kind of like just saying, okay, this proves that you're not relevant. These young guys don't respect you. You know, I kind of think that there should be a deference to the OGs before you, right? There should be a deference to the fact that, yeah, you're great. You know, you're awesome, but you ain't no GOAT. Anthony Edwards is not a GOAT. He is. Right. He's a, you know, what would he be? He'd be like a thoroughbred, you know, something like that. There's thousands of those, right? He's not the first black man to be able to accomplish great things. He has won, last time I checked, 0 championships. 0. Barack Obama has won championships. Yes. LeBron has won championships. Right. And I think that that's the part that I didn't quite get. I felt like, you know, when he's like telling him to stand down and you know, I'm the truth and all that. I get it, right? I'm from, you know, you and I are both from the city of Muhammad Ali. So we can respect when somebody knows who they are and they tell that to the world. But imagine if Ali had went around saying, I'm the truth, I'm the greatest, and never ever won the heavyweight title. Yeah. Right. Like he just went out there and got his ass kicked. And, you know, and you know, let's say he had a record of 25-6, you know what I mean? Like, and talk about I'm the GOAT. You know, like on what criteria are you the GOAT? You know, or he didn't say GOAT, he said the truth. So yes. maybe he is the truth, but I think there are a lot of great players that are kind of the truth. I think about Anthony Edwards. He reminds me, tell me what you think. He reminds me of Michael Jordan before Michael ever won a championship. You know, Michael was considered the best player in the NBA, but people were like, well, you're clearly not the best player because we're all trying to win rings and you ain't got no rings, which means that there's a part of your game that still hasn't developed. Or another example is when Terrell Owens, I don't know if you saw, Terrell Owens said Michael Irvin is in the basement of the Hall of Fame.
I did see that.
Irvin's like, he's like, the only reason I got to the basement is because I got weighed down by all these championship rings I got. You know, so I was like, good touche, good for you. You know, so what are your thoughts on some of what I just said?
So you said a lot there, and let me preference everything by saying Anthony Edwards is very immature. Like, he's a great basketball player, but he is very much a child. I say that by saying, because if you know anything about Anthony Edwards' personal life, Anthony Edwards has like 4 kids, all under the age of 1. Like 4, maybe 5. It might be 5. 2 of them are like baby mamas of rappers. One was Lil Baby's baby mama. The other was Chief Keef's baby mama. Right. Like, so he's very immature. Like, let me not like act like that isn't an aspect of this too. So I said I kind of enjoyed it, but I also know who the person is. Anthony Edwards is very mature. He lives a frivolous lifestyle. And so therefore his reaction to Obama like that does not surprise me, not one bit, because of who he is. Now, I also understand the confidence. He was the number 1 pick. He was the top player in high school. Although he hasn't won a championship, he was in the Western Conference Finals. And so coming into that summer. So this is all based off last summer. So he had just went to the Western Conference Finals. He's like at the top. That's the furthest he had ever been in his career. He averaged the most points in his career. All of that stuff. He's kind of like riding high. He's off that high of being in the Western Conference Finals the year before. So I'm laying all of that out. When you say the respect factor to Obama when it comes to young people. So sticking with Anthony Edwards, Obama was first inaugurated in 2008. Anthony Edwards was born in 2001. All right. So that's a big difference. Anthony Edwards is a small child, but what has happened in Anthony Edwards' really like formative adult years is the emergence of Trump. And I'm not saying that as a Trump supporter. What I will say is now in today's time, it's very hard, very, very hard for Democratic men to come off masculine, to come off powerful, to come off because of a lot of their rules and regulations and how they ran the democracy versus kind of how Trump's running it. Whether you like Trump or not, he's coming off very strong, right? I want to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. I'm going to do it. Right. I want to, cut all these federal employees and get rid of DEI and do all that stuff. For years, we were always told, especially during Obama's term, specifically black people, we were told, well, the president really can't do anything. He's got to run it by Congress and he's got to run it by the Senate and the House of Representatives and then the judges and all that stuff. And so anytime Obama didn't do anything is because he couldn't because of XYZ. And now, just in these last few months of Trump, you see like, no, if he actually wants to get something done, there are things that can get blocked, but you can actually do stuff. Like Trump has shown us that you can get stuff done. And so I say all of that to say Democratic politicians don't seem so masculine. There's a lot of Peter Buttigieg. There's a lot of Chuck Schumers. There's a lot of like, no disrespect to them. Joe Biden, like this, no disrespect to them, but that ain't coming off as strong, powerful, masculine. Right. And so that's going to be a problem for them moving forward when we come to politicizing things. And so once again, I'm going back to that's just on the political front. And I think that all kind of does tie together. I do think young black men are looking at some of these Democratic figures, people in the Democratic Party themselves. That's not necessarily saying they're all lining up with Trump or the Republicans, but they're looking at them as like, who's the man? Who's someone that represents me, right? Someone who loves women, someone who is strong, someone who's firm behind their beliefs, someone that's kind of like that's powerful and that reigns like testosterone and masculinity, right? Because the Democrats always tell you that masculinity is toxic, right? You got to be more like we're all in the feminist movement and masculinity is toxic and all you guys are misogynists and girls can play with boys and you got to accept the men who want to be women to play with the girls and all of that stuff, right? That's what they're telling you. And it's like, and if you speak out against it, you're homophobic, xenophobic, sexophobic, whatever phobic there is, right? Like I can just make up a phobic, right? And people are kind of like, nah, I'm not really with all of that. I kind of like, I ain't gonna necessarily say I like Trump, but I like that. I might not like him, but I like that. Meaning, hey, Trump, I don't give a F attitude. You can call me whatever phobic you want, but I'm still going to do what I want. And I'm still going to be able to provide for my family. I'm not going to get canceled. We've canceled cancel culture, right? Like we've got rid of that. Like you think you can cancel me? How about no? I can say whatever I want. Now, I'm not going to be disrespectful, but like, I'm not afraid. I'm not walking on eggshells because of the way I talk. I do think that in the political space is something that young black men are dealing with and they're kind of grappling with. They're like, hey man, like, y'all told me the president could do nothing. When Obama was doing nothing for black people, y'all told me that. And Trump was inaugurated in January. And in 6 weeks, I've seen mountains change. Not all of it good, but I've seen a lot of change, right? I've seen a whole lot of change. When y'all told me for 8 years he couldn't do this. I mean, the man literally changed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. I didn't know that was possible, but he did it. All the Gen Sixers were out of jail. He did it. You know what I'm saying? Like cutting federal employees, all the remote workers going back to work. He did it. He did it. He did it. Elon Musk, you want a position and to cut money and save money? He did it. It's like, for my whole life, I was told you couldn't do that. And that is an issue the Democrats are running into.
Wow. By the way, everybody, I'm speaking with Jeff Lightsey Jr., and we are talking about this interesting, awkward interaction between Barack Obama and Anthony Edwards, who's an NBA star that plays for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Do me a favor, if you haven't done this yet, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, you can follow Jeff on Twitter at jlighty7. Is that your Twitter?
Yes.
jlighty7. So look up jlighty7. He's a cool dude, smart guy. He has a lot of great things to say. He cares about our HBCUs, which I think we all should. So, go check Jeff out. He's a good dude, smart guy. And I respect him. Also, by the way, if you want to join our morning financial class, there's no reason to remain financially incapable or financially stuck. I have a whole PhD in finance. I teach every single morning, 7 days a week for free. It's called Money in the Morning. So if you want to join, just go to drboyceelevate.com and you can join for free. Or you can also text the word morning to the phone number 87948. So text morning to 87948 and I will send you a wake-up call and you can join us for class tomorrow. All right. So what I want to do, Jeff, for those who just came in, is I'm going to play this video again. I like to look at stuff multiple times just to see if I missed something the first time around. You know what I mean? Like just in case there's like something there that maybe we didn't catch the first time, because I really thought about, I was kind of trying my best to balance between, like sort of expecting that he was going to have this deference to Obama versus just saying like how much deference do we give to people who came before us, right? Like I'm not necessarily a believer that Obama was great for Black people, but I think Obama was a president that's carried himself with a lot of dignity. He's won his own championships. He's a winner. And again, Anthony Edwards hasn't won anything, in my opinion. He's gotten to the playoffs, and I think he got to the Western Conference Finals, and he averages 26, 27 points a game. But I think that there's a lot he can learn from a Barack Obama. So I'm going to play this video again, and I want you all to, in the chat, give me your comments on this video. So here we go.
I just think I saw it today. What do you think about this young guy? He can hoop a little bit, huh? A little bit, huh?
Yeah, I better stand down. The truth.
He's the truth. He said it's the truth. Yeah.
He boy know.
I guess.
He cold though. I gotta give him credit. He give up 50 every time we play.
I mean,
like I ain't 7 foot.
And y'all got 2 7-footers and he's still
Hold on.
Huh?
Don't talk. We ain't gonna do all that.
No, I'm just saying.
3 7-footers.
He got 3. That's right. Because he got 9
credit. I told you that. I said you.
He did.
I gave him credit.
I remember that. Okay, LeBron. No, listen. Are y'all talking to this young man? Because he just keeps on. Right now, he just said he's the truth and all that, and the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but that's what he said.
You asked him. You tell him the whole context of the situation, though. You asked him what he think about this young man, and he said, "I'm okay." I said, "I'm the truth." That's what happened.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Gotta have that. Yeah, that man, the truth. Gotta have both way.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop it right there. Now, let me ask you this, Jeff. From watching the video again, did you notice anything watching it again that you didn't notice the first time?
Not really. I do think it is interesting. I will tell you this, and I guess the thing that I continue to notice is like the aura of Obama isn't the same for Anthony Edwards as it was at one point. Now, for like a LeBron James, a Kevin Durant, a Steph Curry. Now, they've been around Obama a lot, right? So that's almost like their friend. They probably have each other's cell phone numbers, whatever the case may be. But like when they first met Obama, maybe back in 2008 or 2009 or 2010 or whenever they first met Obama, they wouldn't have been talking like that, right? Like they wouldn't have stepped to Obama and like, y'all better step down, right? Like, and they're older than that. And they're, like you said, more accomplished than that. But they wouldn't have came at Obama like that. Anthony Edwards, once again, I'm admitting that he is immature. At the same time, I don't think the aura of a Barack Obama is as magnifying for an Anthony Edwards maybe as it once was. And I do think that has something to do with Donald Trump.
Well, did Edwards ever come out and say he supports Trump?
No. Once again, it goes back to the whole masculinity, tough, kind of getting stuff done. Now, once again, Anthony probably has nothing to do with politics, right? Like he has nothing to do with that. But I do think the emergence of Trump and really seeming very macho and masculine aligns a lot more with young Black macho masculine athletes than maybe Obama, like kind of like they felt like Obama once did, but maybe not so much to this next generation.
Well, it's
when I watched the video the second time, what I noticed is that there's a lot of conflict, right? He was interrupting him. He's saying, like, kind of barking, or like, don't do that. No, we're not going to do that. Or give him the whole context of the situation, or, like, no, we
once again, that's like not a deference thing, right? Like nobody else would have did that to Obama. Like I've honestly never seen that happen to Obama with anyone, not just a basketball, but especially not a damn basketball player, right? But I've never seen a politician kind of step to Obama that way, or someone kind of like in his lane, let alone a freaking basketball player. But I do think some of the luster of Barack Obama is kind of worn off a little bit, and I think it's in tune with what's happening with the Democratic Party, like globally, like nationally.
I can see that for sure, right? I think the age gap is big.
Yes.
I mean, he's 23, 24 years old, so he doesn't remember, much of anything in terms of why Barack is who he is, right? And I think when I was looking at Anthony Edwards' background, there's a lot of trauma in his background. I think he lost his mother and his grandmother within 8 months. Both of them died of cancer. And then you got the whole issues with, the baby's mamas and everything else going on. And, lots of women stepping up and saying, that's my baby daddy and stuff like that. And what I really see for sure is that he's probably a guy who, in my opinion, and we've seen this before, I feel like he might be the kind of guy who thinks that as long as I can play basketball and average 27 points a game, everything's okay, right? Like my life will be great because white people are paying me lots of money and I'm scoring lots of points, and that's pretty much all that matters, right? And I would sort of say to him, not that he would ever care what I said, but I would say to him, like, well, there's a lot more to your life than just dribbling the basketball. You're making babies everywhere. That's going to come back and haunt you. Those kids are going to grow up and they're going to look at their daddy, and you won't be young and hip and cool in 20 years. All of us start off being the youth, right? We think we're the youth.
Yeah.
And then you become the old guy, right? And
if you're lucky,
right? If you're
in some cases,
yeah, exactly. And if you are not making good choices as a man at an early age, then life after 40 becomes an embarrassment for you. That about 40, 45 is when the kids start to kind of really stand up and look around and start doing Google searches on their dad and the history and start going online and, and blasting their fathers and everything else. And we have a lot of that. You saw that like with Jay-Z. Jay-Z's got that little son out there who's like, you're my dad. You better get off your high horse and acknowledge me. And take that DNA test, because I'm not going to stop talking. So I really think that what kind of got to me about his response to Obama is, number one, I think he's a great player, right? He's amazing, man. He's really good. He reminds me a little bit of the other brother that's from Kentucky. You know what I'm talking about? The little short guy that's real good. You know what I'm talking about?
From Kentucky.
He played for Murray State.
John Morant.
Yeah, John Morant. He reminds me a little bit of John Morant, right? And these guys, these are hood dudes that know how to score. And I don't really know if they know how to win, right? And I think as much as you might want to, well, not you, but as much as someone might want to say, well, Obama's not masculine, and blah, 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 but Obama is a team player, right? And Trump is more masculine than Obama. Trump is definitely more dismissive. He's more like, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do and I don't care what you think. And I think we need a little bit of that, right, in society, because we've been told for so long that masculine men are bad. But at the same time, Trump is also an asshole and a narcissist, right? Kanye is an asshole and a narcissist. So I think that knowing that balance as a man is something he could probably get, like, by kind of listening to Barack. Like, just kind of be quiet for a minute. Like, you're 24, you know how to dribble a basketball and make babies. That's all you've shown you know how to do at this point. You're dealing with people that are older than you who've navigated this life in this world as a black man. Because the thing about white folks, that a lot of brothers, especially athletes, sometimes they forget that they're black. Like OJ Simpson used to be like, I'm not black, I'm OJ, right? And what they don't understand, because they don't really have respect for people before them, is they don't understand that when that man decides he's done with you and he wants to set you up or get you incarcerated or take away everything you've got, he can do that to you. And I just really think that sometimes these guys don't get that. Like, so I ain't gonna lie. I kind of, and also the other thing too, I'll say this and I'll let you get the last word. To me, if you the truth,
Why you gotta go around telling everybody you the truth?
Mm.
Just be the truth. Michael Jordan, I mean, I'm sure Michael Jordan, if you ask him if he was the truth, he'd probably say yes because he won championships. But Michael, to me, showed he was the truth because he was able to do things other people could not do. He could will himself to win. So when you got to tell everybody you're the truth, that means to me that maybe there's a part of you that wonders if you really are the truth. Because remember, he's sitting in a room with guys who have won championships. You can't stand next to LeBron and say, well, we're equals. You're not equal. LeBron carried the Cavs to a championship that year when they beat the Warriors. I mean, he carried that team on his back. Can you carry the Minnesota Timberwolves on your back? Or are you just going to get 27 points a game and then lose, right? There's a lot of players who do that. A lot of players get 27, 30 points a game and then lose. So I don't know. I would kind of challenge him a little bit. Not that he would even care what I think, but I kind of feel like if you're smart and you're young, you can have your confidence. But I think you got to really learn from people before you who've done things you have not done yet. I'll let you get the last word. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I said, like I said, I think immaturity showed a little bit there, but I do like the bravado, the swagger. The one thing that we've always known, whether it was athletes or just people in general, whether it's code switch, whatever term you want to use, code switching, deference, respect, homage, whatever the case may be, they typically do that, especially when an elder, someone who is accomplished, someone who looks like them, walks into a room. Anthony Edwards don't necessarily have that, right? Like Anthony Edwards is someone that he is the same ant no matter who's in the room, whether it's President Obama, LeBron James, or one of his homies from Atlanta. Like he's the same dude. Now that is like funny and encouraging, and it's kind of like, yeah, we like that. It also can be dangerous a little bit, right? It also can come off as disrespectful. It also can come off as arrogant or having too much bravado, whatever the case may be. And that, I think, is just what happened in this moment. I think Anthony Edwards is the same dude no matter what. And that, like I said, can come off as disrespectful, especially when you're telling, Barack Obama that you're the truth, right? Even though he's saying like you got game, he's like, nah, you need to give me more respect than that, right? Like I'm more, it's more than just got game or a little game or whatever. I'm the truth. And the thing about Ant, though, I will say is he is, whether it's good or bad, he's willing to stand and die behind all of that, right? Like no matter if people think it's disrespectful, or no matter if people think it's arrogant, no matter if people think it's doing too much, that's him. Like that's him. Like I said, there's a little bit of naiveness there and immaturity there as well. But at the same time, I think that's what's helped him get this far. And I just think, though, just in a grand totality of things, Anthony Edwards is 23 years old. I think some sandpaper has been rubbed against Barack Obama because of some of the feminist stuff that goes on in the Democratic Party. Anthony Edwards is someone who they tried to quote unquote cancel because he called someone, the word that rhymes with maggot and starts with an F, right? Like he's someone they try to cancel. There's someone they try to cancel because I talked about the 4 or 5 baby mamas that he has, but it's on record that he paid $100,000 for another young lady to get an abortion, right? Like, so he's on record, like he does these things, once again, they're immature, that are silly, but align more, that kind of show more bravado or strength, as opposed to someone who tells you masculinity is toxic and, men can be girls and play with the girls. And Anthony Edwards is someone who's like, I'm not really with all of that. And he's been on record letting it be known that I'm not really with all of that.
Well, I'd be curious to see what his life looks like in 15 years. That's what, that's when you really know, that's when the chickens come home to roost. So I hope young black men, if you have young black men in your house, I hope you're talking to them about these things, because the things you do as a young man affect you heavily when you become a middle-aged and an older man, right? And so, there's more to life than basketball. So anyway, I want to say thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you hanging out, man. I want to give everybody your Twitter. Everybody go follow Jeff at JLightsy7. That's his Twitter. He's really good. He has a lot of good stuff every single day. He's very, very active, and he loves our HBCUs. He's, in my opinion, one of the best HBCU commentators in the country, if not the best. I don't know. I mean, he's up there. He's the truth when it comes to our HBCUs, 100%. So feel free to go to JLightsy7 and follow him. Also, if you want to join us in class tomorrow, We're doing a free financial class. You can go to drboyceelevate.com. So if you want to elevate your economic condition, you don't have to remain financially stuck, financially ignorant. Being broke is a choice. We teach every morning for free. So feel free to go to drboyceelevate.com or text the word morning to the number 87948. And if you want to get a copy of my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, I'll sign it for you and we'll ship it to your house. That's normally $40. You can actually get it for $8 this week. Just go to 10commandments.boycewatkins.com, and that's right there on the screen. And the number 10commandments.boycewatkins.com, and I'll sign the book and send you a copy, because I don't know if I'm the truth or not, but but I'm not looking for nobody. I'm not looking to tell nobody I'm the truth. I'm just going to work my hardest to give you the truth and give you my best, and then I'll let y'all tell me if I'm the truth. So God bless you guys. Have a great day. Thank you again, Jeff, man. I appreciate it, brother. It's great to see you, man.
Thank you as always, Doc.
All right. Everybody have a good day. We'll see you soon. Take care. Peace. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Come on in. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Welcome to Money in the Morning. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and today we are going to have a great conversation about multifamily real estate and just real estate in general. And I want you guys to get a chance to hear and learn from an expert that is blessing us with her time today, Miss Dawn Matthews. Is Dawn Matthews House or Dawn
It
Matthews?
is. Recently married, so it's now Dawn Matthews' house.
Oh, so Dawn just got married. Everybody clap for that.
You
Give her,
did.
give her a
Thank you.
digital congratulations. That's awesome. Look at you getting
Thank you.
married.
Thank you.
That's very cool. Well, congratulations to you. Yeah, I think me and my wife are on year number 4 in May. So
Oh, okay. We're
yeah,
about a year and a half in.
good for you. Good for you. Yeah, marriage is a different world, but I believe in family, and I think it's a wonderful thing. And so Miss Matthews House is she is a person that really knows a lot about multifamily real estate. And what I'm going to do is, as I learn about her, as you do, is first thing I'm going to do is let everybody know I'm going to send you all the text out to let you all know that class is starting. So you'll get a text from me in a second. And so before I begin, I just want to ask Miss Matthews House, sorry, tell me, where do you live? Who are you? What do you do? Let's start there.
Sure. Sure, I'd be glad to. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's my pleasure to be on speaking about my first passion, which is real estate, my first love. So I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're a suburb of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've lived here most of my life, moved around a little bit between Columbia, Maryland, Orlando, Florida, and Atlanta, Georgia as well. But now back to my home state of Pennsylvania. Real estate investment is what I love. In my experience, I've worked the whole gamut from, I began at the age of 23 getting my real estate license. So I was a licensed real estate agent. At that time, I also became an investor. I bought my first multi-unit. It was a triplex at age 23. So that's how I got my start as an investor as well. From then, I kind of parlayed into other areas in the real estate and mortgage industry, which includes from real estate agent, I then went into becoming a senior loan officer. So doing mortgages and getting those underwritten for prospective buyers, as well as worked in the servicing department as an AVP for both Merrill Lynch and Bank of America. So when I say servicing, from current accounts to default servicing, which includes foreclosures, short sales, deed in lieu, all the way through REO, which is real estate owned. And then back to now, I'm back into real estate as a investor. So I currently own a company called Home and Deed Realty. I'm the founder and CEO, and we have a nice portfolio of both residential and commercial properties. And that is what I love to do.
Really? Okay. So at what point? So I'm curious about your educational background. What did you study anything, say, in college or grad school that got you ready for this, or was it mostly like licensing that you got on the side? Or tell us about that.
Yeah, so my bachelor's degree is in organizational leadership. So I imagine there are some transferable skills that allowed me to kind of get into this field. But it was more so an internal passion, an internal vision that I've had since a teenager of wanting to build communities. It was a dream of mine from the age of probably 18, 19, to buy land, build a community for us, for Black people in specific, to have, places where we own the homes. We have the schools. We're teaching our own children our own curriculum. Everything is Black owned. The stores, where you don't have to encounter racism and difficulties, and to help our people to build wealth and be able to transfer that wealth onto the next generation.
Okay, so you specifically chose to use your skills to build in your community. Like you did this for Black folks. You didn't do it because it was like, maybe a great job or you wanted to work for Merrill Lynch. You did it for us. Is that
I did
correct?
it for us. Yeah, it's for us.
Okay. Well, being Black out loud is awfully dangerous.
I,
Wait,
especially in this climate.
right. Who called you into that? Where did you get that pro-Black energy from? Did you have a parent that
My mother.
your mother?
hmm My
Come-
mother, very into investing in ourselves, and building for ourselves, and passing it on to the next generation. She didn't have something necessarily to pass on to me. She's still alive, but
Oh.
but what she did is ingrain it into me, which was just as important as being able to pass something on.
Ah, so your mother I like this point. What's your mama's name, if I may ask?
Wanda Matthews.
Wanda Matthews. Okay, so Miss Wanda, maybe she's watching because I think she should be acknowledged. Like, without our mamas, who are we
Thank you.
without mama?
Right,
Yeah. So what Miss Wanda did was she didn't just make sure that you learned how to do something. She made sure you understood why you were doing it.
right,
Right? It wasn't just like, okay, I'm gonna show you how to drive a car. I'm gonna tell you where to drive to.
right.
Right. And I think that's really important. I think, and I'd be curious to know if anybody else understands where I'm coming from with this. I think that a lot of us, that don't grow up in conscious spaces, where there is no conversation about what the community needs, it becomes kind of a very primitive economic discussion, like go to school, make good grades, so that hopefully someone will hire you and give you a good job.
Right.
And you say, well, why are you doing that? Well, because I want to make money. Why do you want to make money? Because I want to get a car. I want to have a nice house, right? Like, well, why do you want a nice car and a nice house? I don't know, because I want to feel like I'm successful, right?
hmm
But for a lot of people, at no point does that discussion come up and say, well, because I'm Black and I really want my community to improve because of the work I'm putting in, right? Like I'm investing
Right.
in myself and also by extension investing in my community and making us all better. And I think that's really powerful. So, so let's talk about multifamily real estate. I'd be curious, is that kind of like your jam? Like, is that kind of your main thing, in terms of real estate, or like, what's your
It
specialty?
is. It is. Multifamily investing is my jam, as you put it. And let me tell you why. I also own single family homes as well that are rentals. But what I learned initially when doing it is, okay, I'm purchasing, and this is very important for first time investors, whether you're buying your first home or you're doing it intentionally as an investment. I can buy one single family home, right? Say it's a single family home for $300,000, depending on where you live in the country. And with that, I have a mortgage of probably $2,500 a month for that, right? Including the taxes and insurance, principal and interest. But if I buy a 4 unit property, which banks now with the Fannie Mae program look at the same way, as far as the qualifications, they'll allow you to put 5% down, as you may on a typical single family home as well, put 5% down, and now I can purchase a duplex, a triplex, or quad, which is a 4 unit apartment complex. So with that, I'm becoming an investor. I can live in one, house hacking, they call it. I can live in 1 unit, rent the other three out. So in addition to now I have a place to call my own that I own, I have 3 other units that are bringing me income. The second unit probably will cover the mortgage, depending on how high the mortgage is. And the third and fourth unit can be extra profit in my pocket. And
Mm.
that's how I suggest beginning your start in real estate.
Okay, so I'd be curious, when you talk about the real estate market and what's been kind of happening, um, I think sometimes, when we hear about the joy and the excitement of owning property and doing multifamily rentals, things like that, it seems like there are a lot of landmines that are out there that people are not aware of.
What comes to mind in terms for you in terms of like two or three of the biggest mistakes that people make when they jump into multifamily real estate?
Not yeah, not doing your due diligence, right? So that's the first thing. The first law of real estate is always location, location, location. So they say buy the worst house in the best neighborhood, and that pretty much rings true. Because it'll hold its value and it'll appreciate a lot faster than some place that's not as nice, right? So that's one thing. But a mistake is not doing your due diligence, and I'll specifically speak to tax sales in this scenario. So there's properties that you could purchase at tax sale, also called sheriff sale, right? So you can do your due diligence by doing title work on that, making sure that the title is clear on the property, as well as you may not with tax sales, you can't always go into the property like you can a normal property to see what it looks like, but you can definitely drive up to the property more times so than not they're vacant. So take a look in the windows, take a look at the roof, take a look at the structure, the foundation. How many cracks do you see? Is there water down around the foundation of the building? Are there gaps in the roof or shingles coming off? So I think just doing your due diligence to know what you're getting into, because when you purchase a property like a tax sale property, you're going to very likely have to put some money into it. And I'll give an example of one that I did. I purchased a few properties at tax sale, and it's a great entry, right? So not all areas are like my area in Pennsylvania, where property prices are still somewhat reasonable. But at our tax sale properties, our auctions, you can buy a property for between $12,000 and $15,000. I've done that. In the same month, I bought one that was $12,000 and one that was $14,000. The one that was $12,000, I put maybe $10,000 into it in renovations. Didn't take too much. And immediately afterwards, when I say immediately, it took about 2 months for me to turn it over. It was more so like carpet and paint. But I rented it out, I think, beginning at $13.95 when I started, and that was 5 years ago. When I started with the sheriff, so that was like 5 years ago. So I rented out for like $13.95. I made all my money back in the first year, and then every other year it's just icing on top of the cake. And since then, I've refinanced it twice, pulling equity out of it to make other purchases. It's the name of the game. But your question was about risks. It's just doing your due diligence, doing your homework, know what you're getting into, having money aside for things that may not go right, because that's gonna happen. Yeah, things that like a roof, or a tenant complained that the heat's not working and it's the dead of winter. You better have that couple $1,000s to buy a new boiler or a new furnace if necessary. So just being prepared, doing your due diligence, being prepared, and having some funding set aside for things that may go wrong.
Okay. Well, everybody who just came in, I'm speaking with Dawn Matthews Howes, and she's an expert in multifamily real estate. She's going to be our guest tomorrow night. If you want to talk to her and ask her questions and spend a big night with her, I'm going to let her take over the real estate club tomorrow night. If you want to do a free trial, you can go to drboycerealestate.com. That's drboycerealestate.com, and Miss Matthew House will be there. And also, we've had some other guests that have come through, and so the goal is to make sure you're exposed to all the different ways to make money. Also, I want to let everybody know, remind everyone, don't forget Miami. We are going to meet together. How many of you, give me a yes, I'm curious, how many of you want to come to Miami? How many of you want to meet up in person and in 3D and meet with others in the group? Give me a yes in the chat if you do. Those who are not sure, say yes or no, say no, that kind of thing. I want to see who wants to come. I want to see what the demand. I got the sense that you guys really wanted to do something in Miami. Okay, so we've set it up. So here's what's going to happen. I want to make it clear. At the Millionaire Trading Camp, I am not inviting people outside of this space. I'm just not. I don't want, it's almost like you have to be qualified to be there. I want people that understand the mission. I want people that understand what we're doing in terms of Black wealth. You can bring your family members because you know them, and I need you to be accountable. Make sure you manage your cousins and stuff, because I want to do stuff for serious people that want to get better, that want to be around other serious people. And the only reason I say that is because I'll tell you, Don. I feel like when you're talking about being pro-Black and really doing wealth-related things for the Black community, it's crazy how I don't feel like it's as popular as it should be, right? I think two things are missing, right? The desire and then the skill. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how you started the conversation and you said, in the price crystal, I'll send you the link and you can take a look. There's regular access and VIP. You guys will get the link later today. Make sure you're on the text list. Text the word morning to the number 87948. So if you text morning to 87948, you'll get the link, but it's for you. I'm not marketing this outside of this space. Okay. So one thing that like at the beginning, you were talking about, I want to build for my community. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think about that all the time. And I sit back and like, for example, when I watched Kendrick Lamar and their great performance at the Super Bowl, I said, man,
Awesome.
yeah, I was like, this is the blackest Super Bowl ever. Everything was black except for the owner's box, right?
Right.
You
Right.
know, yeah, and I said we are the biggest investors in the NFL on earth. Like
Mm-hmm.
team owners don't get CTE, when they to be a part of the football team. Team owners don't have little boys in their community that literally dedicate their whole entire lives to contributing to the NFL, right? So we're the biggest investors out there, but we're not the biggest beneficiaries. And I
Right.
remember thinking, like, you have everything you need. Why can't you start a sports league? And it's almost just like the mindset's not there. Like if you're not trained on being a builder or have a skill, like I like the fact that you said you studied organizational leadership. That to me it should be those should be the kinds of skills that all of our children should get, right? Like don't just
Mm-hmm.
get a great job, like run an organization, create a job for other people, but there's a
Right.
mindset that comes with that. Can you talk about that part? I know I said a lot and you can talk about anything you want, but I was thinking I want to try to narrow it in because my ADHD kicks in and then I start going crazy. But this idea of organizational leadership, how critical has that been for you as a CEO? And I mean, I could tell your boss, look at her, don't she look professional? Look at that. Look at her background. I mean, you came up in here just looking like somebody that runs something, right? Tell me about how your organizational leadership training affects how you go about doing your thing.
It's very imperative. And being the CEO of your own organization, as well as I have a nonprofit as well, being taught how to effectively run an organization as well as to manage other people, how to speak and be heard, and to ensure that you're able to convey your message to the intended audience and that they're able to receive it. Those are some of the main facets I learned in organizational leadership, and it's important in every aspect of our life, especially anything in the workplace, whether you're a business owner or an employee or manager.
Okay. Well, I think like one thing that we have in the Black Business School, I don't know how familiar you are with what we do, but one thing that we do is we have a model called the Sturdy model for kids. And I
Mhm.
say kids should be trained in systems, technology, entrepreneurship, relationships, and delegation, right? And I thought about that because I was thinking about when you talk about building sturdy children, and it's spelled sturdy with an E instead of a U. It's
Okay.
like if you have a kid that understands systems, then not only are they better prepared to confront things like systematic racism, but also they're able to create systems, right? Like
Hmm.
one way to overcome a system is to leave the system and create another system, right? And
Exactly.
and then same thing with technology. I think technology has become the king, the queen, and everything in between in this society, AI and all that stuff. Our kids have to be fully prepared on that. And then also when you get to entrepreneurship, that's basic, right? And learn how to start a
Hmm.
business, right? It's just as easy to fill out the form for an LLC as it is to fill out a job application.
Absolutely. Probably easier.
Yes, yes, because you don't have to fill out like 80 of them. And
Right.
and go to a bunch of interviews and get disappointed and the labor market's so deceptive. Excuse me. I got a little bit of a chest cold. Forgive me for that. And then you talk about relationships, right? Just like I talk about relationships, hoping that people will understand what I'm saying in that it's hard to do business if you can't form healthy relationships with other people and maintain those relationships, which
Right.
circles back to things like trauma. And we grow up with all this trauma and we don't trust anybody you don't trust. So it's hard to kind of give people that slack in the relationship so that you can actually build together. Thinking like, for example, with your husband, you're building an institution together, and that requires you to invest in your relationship. And then the delegation piece
Right.
comes down to just like, you can't do it all by yourself. Right. And you think about how many entrepreneurs are like, I'm going to be a one person corporation. And it's like, no, I mean, you're going to have a hard time doing that.
Yeah, that's a long road ahead to do it alone.
Yeah. So did you have any thoughts on what I just said? I won't even frame it as a question. You're smart. I'm sure you got something to say on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Relationships and networking is everything. My husband and I just got back from Ghana on Monday. So we're still a little bit off because they're 5 hours ahead of us. And the relationships that we made over there, we were only there a little over a week, but the relationships we made over there, um, this was just amazing. We got tours of new real estate developments that are being built, particularly from by African Americans who are wanting to invest in the diaspora.
Nice.
I'm not going to say the name of another organization that's over there building 400 homes. They were, pardon me, they were donated 400 acres of land. These African Americans, and they're building, I think, about between 300 and 400 homes on their villas and townhomes, and they're making great progress. But just to be able to go over there and speak to the leadership there and be able to get tours of the properties there between the United States and the diaspora. It's all within relationship building, to be able to have that kind of access to see that. And in here on the ground in the US, that's why we feel it's so important to give back, by through our nonprofits. And we have training seminars where we're teaching not just children, but also adults. Hey, how do you get your first investment investment property in real estate? Or even your first home if you're not even looking to be an investor, because that's the pathway to building wealth and coming out of poverty. It's essential.
Wow. I really love that. And by the way, everybody, this is Don Matthews House, and we're talking about multifamily real estate and other stuff. So one thing I wanted to ask you quickly,
Mhm.
in terms of multifamily real estate, you mentioned some of the things that people mistakes people make, the biggest mistake, not doing your due diligence, things like that. I was thinking about also things like I don't know if they call it tenant risk or something, but just that risk, like when you have someone inside a property and they just are like, well, I'll pay when I
Yeah.
can pay. I'll give you
Mhm.
money when I can give you money, and you're still paying the mortgage, and they're living in your property, and you're trying to get them out. Do you
Yeah.
sort of think carefully about like what cities you want to own property in based on how the tenants' rights are structured in those cities?
I have not dealt with that as far as tenant rights, and I live in Pennsylvania. So what my suggestion for that is screen hard.
Mm,
Screen early, screen hard. And sometimes that leaves some people outside of that window. But if you have multiple eviction after eviction after eviction, like there's some people they'll say, please, can you rent this property to me? It's perfect for me and my family. But then you'll run their background and you'll run their tenant history, and you'll see that they've been evicted 3 times in this year. That means that's a system that they have going on. They don't pay their rent month after month after month. They wait till they get evicted, and they do the same thing to the next landlord. So it's important to screen and screen hard. It's important to, if you're going to be an investor, to ensure that you're collecting enough of a security deposit. Or sometimes if you're taking additional risk on somebody who may have had some kind of rental history issues, maybe even a security deposit and a half or a double security deposit. And it's not something that we like to do because we know that that's a challenge. Um, Oftentimes to come up with that kind of money, and you want to give someone a second chance. But at the same time, you have to protect your investment. I have had situations where someone has moved out and they've left a mess. I only collected 1 month of a security deposit, and the damage they and their children put in the home was probably 3 times the security deposit. So that leaves the investor, you have to reinvest in there to get that turned over to get rented back out.
wow. Yeah. I mean, it seems like with, I mean, I personally believe, tell me what you think about this. I think
Mhm.
that anybody who wants to dive into multifamily property for the first time should probably take the time to maybe find somebody that has experience that you can pay them to kind of go through the deal with you, and
Yeah.
you can, pay for their experience, right? You're paying a small amount of money to that person to avoid this many
The
mistakes.
pitfalls, right?
Yeah, yeah. Once done, I did a one-on-one consultation with a student who, um, he said, he said I saved up $750,000 of my life savings, and he went to one of those seminars where they got him all pumped up and hyped up, and and then at the end they're like, yeah, just give us $30,000 to, you can join our program and stuff like that, and they got him in this real estate deal And of course, when it's like, well, how much is it going to cost me to get involved? They're like, well, how much you got? Right? It's like that,
Right,
right?
right. It depends on how much you have. Right. That's crazy.
Right, right. So this poor guy put $750,000 into this deal, and
Mm.
he's like, I can't get my money out. I'm not making any money. What should I do? And I was like, I said, I think the thing you might have to do is build a time machine so we can go back 2 years and you can talk to me before you do this.
Right.
Because just putting your life savings into anything is just not good investing in general. And also, I find that with a lot of deals, especially in real estate and other places, it's very easy to get your money in. It's hard to get your money out.
Hmm.
Much easier like that. It's easy to get that check to clear going in one direction, but when you're,
Right.
where's my money? And they're like, well, you might have some money 5 years from now. That kind of sucks. That's terrible. And so it almost seems like people like yourself can help to avoid some of these problems that might be out there. Can you kind of speak to that in terms of things that you've seen?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think what you're really saying is like it's important to have a mentor, whether it's a paid mentor or somebody family or friend who's gone before you and has invested themselves and have run into these issues and knows the possible outcomes. It's important to have mentors. There's multiple things I'm involved in, and for each one, I have a mentor or two. So I absolutely agree with that. If not, like the person that you spoke to, you will find yourself. Um, Encountering some pitfalls. And it oftentimes are costly pitfalls. And if you to avoid that, speak to somebody who's been down that path. Another thing I would say on that note, for the person you were speaking of, diversification. So I think real estate is the cornerstone. I think it's the cornerstone of wealth. I think it's probably the most important facet of building and retaining generational wealth. But diversification is also important. I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket, meaning I would not put all my money in real estate, stocks, bonds, um, technology, another business. Have your risk spread out. Don't have it all in one thing, because 2008 can happen. 2008, remember when the mortgage and foreclosure crisis happened, and Black America lost. I couldn't tell you how much wealth they lost all in that at that one time between 2008 and 2010. It was shameful, and they had to go to the process of rebuilding. So diversification, very important, I think, as well as having a mentor, having somebody who's gone through that and dealt with those experiences go before you and give you some advice and kind of handhold, because no mentor is going to tell you, hey, invest everything you have into this one deal, because if it falls apart,
Mm,
you're at a loss, a complete loss.
yes. Yeah. Well, when it comes to investing in anything, I encourage everybody to remember that beautiful song by Olita Adams. And tell me if y'all know this song. Everything must change. Do you know that song, Don?
You have to keep singing so I can tell.
It's nothing stays the
Stays the same. Yeah, yeah. I do remember. Mm-hmm.
same. What will change? Nothing stays the same. And the reason I say that is because with investing, awareness, financial consciousness, that's what this class is for. Like that's what I literally call it, is like just understanding like how this stuff works, seeing your environment, knowing what space you're in, knowing what the opportunities are and the risks are. Um, One thing that it seems like people forget is that things change all the time. One minute, one sector is on fire and it's the place everybody feels like they should be investing. The next year, that whole sector is garbage and everybody's moving their money over here, right? One minute real estate is amazing and interest rates are low and everybody's leveraging. The next minute, something happens and the Fed hikes up interest rates and you're dealing with a whole different set of economic dynamics. And I would
Absolutely.
encourage everyone to just understand that. Not only is everything going to change, but that actually provides opportunity for you. When I can tell you, Don, when I invest, I'm not really looking to invest in the hottest areas. I'm looking to invest in the areas that I think could be hot in the future.
Hmm.
I like to sort of pick out those spaces that nobody's paying attention to, and then I'm piling up my capital there. Like for example, right now I'm doing that with cannabis. I believe at some point they're going to legalize cannabis, and right now the cannabis stocks are just not doing that great. But I just
Okay.
keep adding to the pile, accumulating, so that when one day everyone's like, "Oh my God, weed is legal now," and the stocks double,
Hmm.
I'll be like, "I'm already there," right? And that's one thing about investing I think people forget is that The worst thing to do as an investor is to follow the crowd. Also, not diversifying, not doing your due diligence. And I really think, and I like to, I want you to get the last word for sure. I think patience, humility, discipline, I think goes a long way, right? So that would
It
mean
does.
maybe if I'm not sure about multifamily real estate, maybe I find some way to maybe I'm spending all my time learning all the different ways I
Hmm.
can get involved. Like a lot of people don't even realize, like I know in our community there's a big push toward multifamily and everyone's excited about it, which they should be. But if maybe being a landlord is not your thing, it ain't my thing.
Okay.
I don't like all that. That's but you can buy real estate investment trust and still get some exposure to real
That's
estate,
true.
right? So I'll let you get the last word. So tomorrow night when you are doing your training in the real estate club, tell us what we should expect and what that's going to be like for us.
Okay, so tomorrow evening when we discuss it, we will be talking about obviously making your first purchase for your investment property or your first time home, whichever you choose to do, how to do that, why to do that, um, how to analyze a deal properly, and how to scale and grow your portfolio. That's what we're looking to discuss tomorrow.
Okay, I love that, and I appreciate you coming in. And it's funny you talked about just getting back from Ghana just last night. Literally just last night, we had a group meeting because we're doing a group trip to Ghana in July, and
Oh, wow. Okay.
and it's we're gonna do the investment stuff and look around and all that. Um, and by the way, anybody who wants to go to Ghana, if you want to get information, just text the word travel to the number 87948 and I'll send you information. So text travel to 87948. I'll have Chanel send out the recording from last night. Jay Cameron is going to be our tour guide, and it's a lot of fun. And I really think that our people, I think we can really benefit from really connecting with the diaspora. I think we forget just how awesome Africa is.
It is. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely it was life changing. That was my first time. My husband's been there many times. That was my first time setting foot on the continent, and I was enamored. I was amazed. It's so beautiful. There's so many lies that have been told to us about Africa, about the continent, Africa, and all its countries. It's beautiful. There are beautiful people. There's so much opportunity that exists over there, and I'd venture to say there's more opportunity that exists there than that exists here. And I'd love to contribute to building the bridge between the Black diasporans here and abroad over to the motherland.
Yeah, I mean, with Africa, it's what amazed the heck out of me, Don, about Africa in general. And when I say how awesome it is, I think about how mighty it is in terms of just population alone. Like
Mm,
people, part of financial consciousness is understanding what wealth looks like. Human beings are a form of wealth.
right,
When you have that family and you raise your kids to be smart and productive people, you've added to your family's wealth. I hope everyone
right,
understands, right? Like I've worked with my kids, and my kids have made me millions of dollars by working with me. And I've created opportunities for them, and and so I hope people will kind of understand this. So Africa just has not just a massive population, but a very youthful population. In fact, let me just give you some quick little stats about Africa. And what blew my mind, Don, was I was like, this is so crazy that all those years we're in public school where they're teaching us how wonderful white people are. We're not, we don't even realize how many massive African countries there are that have hundreds
right.
of millions of people, right? Like Nigeria has 228 million, Ethiopia has 126 million, Egypt has 110 million, the Congo has 102 million, Tanzania 70 million, South Africa 60 million, Kenya 55 million, Uganda 48 million, Algeria 47 million, Sudan 41 million, Morocco 36 million, Angola 35 million, Ghana 34 million, Mozambique 33, Madagascar 30, Cameroon 28. And there are so many countries that a lot of our people can't even name. They don't even know about these
Right.
countries. And these countries have tens of millions of people. I almost feel like we got like kind of miseducated. Like we kind of,
We did. We did. We were speaking to some of the Ghanaians over there as well, because they were miseducated on their side as well, thinking that whites and Europeans are a large part of the population. They're 11% of the whole worldwide population.
mm,
Though they dominated, they're only 11%. The other 89% are people of color, and a large part of that African or of African descent.
Wow.
But I'm happy that we're turning a corner. Or when I say I'm speaking of the people on the continent of Africa and their leaders turning a corner to leading in a different way without so much European influence and taking control of their own countries again and not allowing their resources to be stolen and pilfered out and benefiting from their resources again, including last week I heard Senegal now is doing their own oil refining, and Burkina Faso is not allowing its minerals to be exported without them getting the benefit of it. I'm just glad to see we're turning a corner.
Yeah, I was really heartbroken when I went to Nigeria. Um, because I got invited over there by a rich guy. They, we got the special treatment, and I was just blown away by how much poverty there was. And
Yeah,
I was like, you all have as much oil as Saudi Arabia. How come there's so much poverty here? Because I'm not gonna see all this poverty in Saudi Arabia, and I remember also being a little bit disheartened because it was almost like maybe it was just the people that I happened to be with, but it was almost like they'd become desensitized to it. They were like,
really.
"Oh,
Okay.
yeah." The attitude for the folks that I was traveling with, and maybe again, this is a specific individual. You can't generalize, but it was almost like when I was like, "Look at all this poverty. Like, what's going on?" It was almost like they looked at me and they're like, "Why do you care? Like, we're rich, you know." And the guy's bragging to me. He's like, "Yeah, I took my children go to school in London, and we spent $30,000 on our vacation." And I was like, "Is that what you do? Like, you brag about how much money you like? That's it was just very weird that you can have so much poverty in a nation that's so wealthy, and that's just a clear injustice. And
It is.
it's one of those things that over time, hopefully, that'll get corrected, and let's hope for the best. So, without further ado, I want to say thank you so much, Miss Don Matthews House. I appreciate you joining us for today. It was a pleasure to have you in class.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on. I look forward to further conversations tomorrow evening.
Yes. So if you'd like to talk, if you're interested in multifamily real estate and you'd like to be in a private space to speak with Ms. Howes, where she can answer questions, and any questions you have, and also break down her presentation, her training, how to analyze deals, things like that, feel free to do a free trial in drboycerealestate.com. The first 30 days are 100% free. So feel free to go to drboycerealestate.com. I'll send you guys the link. Also, another link you guys will get via text is a link to join the event in Miami. And again, it's for you. It's not for everybody. And so if you want to come to Miami and meet everyone in 3D, I'll send out the link later on today. And let me know what that experience is like for you. So make sure you're on the text list. Text the word morning to the number 87948. You can text morning to 87948, and I'll send it out to you. All right. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. And thank you again, Miss Matthews House. I look
Thank
forward to
you.
all night. All right. All right, everybody. Have a good day, and thank you again. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
This evening on The Rock Newman Show, I chat with economist, author, political analyst, and commentator Dr. Boyce Watkins. He'll break down the importance of financial literacy and how you can get on the path towards financial freedom. That's coming up right now on The Rock Newman Show. Welcome to the Rock Newman Show from the campus of historic Howard University, located in the nation's capital. I'm Rock Newman, and it is my desire to inspire you with personal stories of extraordinary achievement. Dr. Boyce Watkins is a financial scholar, social commentator, and author. As one of the founding fathers of financial activism, he has worked to create social change through what he's coined conscientious capitalism. He joins me now to discuss how you can improve your financial foothold and what steps you can take, listen, to make your first million. Dr. Boyce.
What's happening, brother?
Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm honored to be invited. Thank you so much, brother.
All right. We're going to get into how our viewers out there can make their first million and a whole bunch of other financial literacy discussion. But there's something, and I wanted to get your take on it. We have someone from our community that is a fairly prominent commentator. His name is Jason Whitlock. And recently he's come out with comments such as LeBron James is not impacted by the fact that somebody writes a derogatory N-word on his gate because he's too wealthy. And that Colin Kaepernick has never lived in the hood, in essence. That he's never lived in the hood. So in essence, he doesn't understand the black experience and ultimately shouldn't be commentating on it. Now here's what I want to ask you, because I know you're very, very strong on ownership of whatever it is you're doing. So I want to ask you something. Do you think that if Jason Whitlock were truly an entrepreneur and owned his own content, that he would be making those kind of comments? He doesn't, and he's on Fox News, which always seems to have a very conservative, regressive political slant. I'd like to get your opinion on that.
Well, let's just be clear. We always have to kind of know, in business, media, all that. We need to know, who the pimp is and who the hoe is. Who's the puppet master. Mm-hmm. I don't know a whole lot of people who are able to survive in a white supremacist institution like Fox News without bowing at the feet of white supremacy. A system is not typically going to reward anybody, especially a black man, for defying and rejecting and challenging that system. So the part of the reason for Jason's extreme success within Fox and all that, and so you can say about some other commentators out here, the reason for his success is because he fits well with an organization that is clearly, undeniably, without question, built on a foundation of white supremacy. And what's problematic about that, Rock, is that it distorts that these sorts of unhealthy relationships, these business relationships, it distorts our ability to be human and our ability to really have the range of free expression that any intelligent group of people is supposed to have. So, for example, you take guys, and three guys that come to mind, based on what people have said about them on social media, and what I agree with is, you got Jason, you got Stephen A. Smith, and you got Dr. Ben Carson. Now, here's the thing. If you take the politics out of it all, and you take the organizational affiliations out of the equation,
sure.
Jason, Stephen, and Ben could easily be like that crazy ass uncle sitting at the family picnic who's just got an opinion that's a little different from everybody else. A lot of the things that they say, when Dr. Carson says, well, the way to succeed is to educate yourself and educate your kids. Well, a lot of people say that. Louis Farrakhan would say that, right? Sure. Stephen A. Smith talks about, black people being personally responsible, things like that. That would, in an independent context, be perfectly fine. Even what Whitlock said would be okay. But when you throw Fox News and ESPN and the Republican Party into the mix, then suddenly these men who might otherwise be sort of free individuals expressing a diverse point of view suddenly become Pinocchio, right? So, for example, Stephen A. Is a guy who, unfortunately, and again, I like Stephen A. I really do. I really love his sports analysis. But when he starts talking about race, the equation starts to become imbalanced. It's like, okay, black people need to do better, and this is what you're doing wrong. But when it comes to white people, his voice suddenly gets lower. Well, he won't criticize white folks the way he'll criticize black folks. He won't attack them and challenge them the way he'll challenge us, and that ultimately becomes this very unhealthy dialogue where you're sort of looking at the left side of the math equation without looking at the right. And it becomes entirely unfair and really patently racist. It's almost like somebody who hates your family who says, well, your sister's a drug addict and she's ignorant and she's this, and this. But there's not sort of a foundation of love where you're saying these things because you care about her. This person, an enemy, would say these things because they hate your family. Whereas, someone in the family could say the same thing, but that's also the same person who fed your sister and loved your sister and really wants her to do better for herself. So I think that's the issue. I look at Jason and I say, wow, brother, like they really have gassed you up with this money and they're really controlling you. And my hope is that one day the Jason Whitlocks and the Ben Carsons and the Stephen A's can be truly free so that, because their opinions are needed. I mean, you need diversity. The problem for black folks sometimes, and I'm a quit, I just kind of ran off on it.
Okay.
But the problem for black folks is that we get put into a box. Everybody has to be a liberal. Everybody has, monolithic, and that's not healthy either. So I think the diversity is good. The problem is that it's coming from a very bad place. When you listen to a Jason Whitlock, that's what makes it unhealthy.
You mentioned earlier some variation of Ben Carson talking about doing for yourself ultimately. Well, Elijah Muhammad said that, and Marcus Garvey said that. Now, I bring up those names. I have observed you're having some positive, flattering commentary about Minister Farrakhan, who I've characterized as probably one of the most misunderstood individuals in America. So it's a couple of things. One, as soon as you do that, there's a certain segment of society and the media that fangs will come out and they'll, paw all over you. One, where does your admiration come from for the minister? One, and two, was it a Marcus Garvey, was it Elijah Muhammad that prompted you to really focus in on entrepreneurial ownership?
Man, I can't say exactly where it all started. I can say I've admired Minister Farrakhan for as long as I can remember, because you don't have a lot of examples in society of truly free black men. Just black men that are able to stand tall, be strong, who still have their testicles attached to their body. The effort, and Dr. Claude Anderson writes about this a lot. There's another real man that's out here. America for 400 years has had an effort to keep the black man as a little boy. There's also an even greater effort to turn the black man into a woman. And that's all, if you really think about what, just the processes that go into place where one group of men is conquering another group of men, that it all makes sense. It all adds up. In order for them to conquer you, they can't have you strong and assertive and intelligent and empowered. They need you weak and passive and frightened and limp. And that's why the strongest black men in our society tend to get killed. They tend to end up in prison. And so that's what drew me to Farrakhan. That's what drew me to Claude Anderson. That's what draws me to men like yourself. Just men that stand for something, because I believe that the black community will rise in sequence with the rise of the black man. You cannot strengthen the community without the man rising along with it. Now, with that being said, Farrakhan's going to get the resistance, and I agree. Most people that will criticize Farrakhan they've never heard him speak. Most of them have never really read anything he's written, and so it all comes back to what is really logically in the white man's incentive is to keep men like Farrakhan from the public eye. It's to basically make sure you distort their image so that by the time it gets to black folks who are sort of being victimized by this media that controls what we see, by the time the message gets there, it's so distorted that you reject it before you even have a chance to even learn what he's all about. When I was with the minister in California, I still remember, the black LGBT students, they all, the university got them all riled up about Farrakhan, so they went there to deliberately disrespect him, get up, walk out in the middle of his speech. And my concern was, look, it's okay for you to disagree with the minister. I think the minister would support your right to disagree. I've had conversations with him about people on my team who didn't like what he had to say, and he was incredibly graceful about encouraging me to encourage them to keep speaking. So disagreeing with the minister is not a crime, but when you are when you're playing those dirty political games, where your goal is to discredit, undermine, destroy, and eliminate and annihilate people like Farrakhan, then that's when we need to annihilate you. That's when you have become an enemy to your people. Because let me tell you this, and this is what I said to those students out at that school. I said, Minister Farrakhan was fighting for your community and for your families before these white folks ever got on board with whatever you're talking about right now. You know, whatever it is you on right now, that's cool. Fight, believe what you want to believe, but why are you going to allow these people to prop you up, to make you take down and destroy a man who's been fighting for your family back when these white folks didn't give a damn about you, when they were out here trying to lynch your parents in the street? So my position is that we can have a diversity of perspectives, but when you get to the point where people start, you know, playing these dirty games, like writing these political hit pieces, like the one that Michael Eric Dyson wrote about Cornel West to dismantle and destroy him. And I like Mike and Cornel. I do. I love them both. But I said, come on, man, you got these folks that are right. They are playing you right now. Right. They're putting the gun in your hand so you can commit some black on black crime, take out another black man, and then they can act like they didn't have nothing to do with it. You know, so the same way you talk about thugs, Crips, and Bloods killing each other in the street, you get that same Crip Blood mentality at all levels of society, and we have to sort of walk away from that. I think, and again, it's my last point on this, I think that Dyson, for example, no disrespect to Mike at all, but I think that Dyson could have taken out his disagreement with Cornel. Melissa Harris Perry could have said, look, we don't agree with you. Let's debate out the issue. And you could do that without somehow pretending that Cornel West is just a person that should never be listened to and he has no value. And that's where it gets kind of dirty, and that's why I think we have to fight back. Yeah.
That was harsh. I mean, while it was going on, man, it really, really just hurt my heart.
Yes.
And you know, just observing it. You talked about the annihilation of strong black men, and you know, it really, I saw a picture flash in my head. Jack Johnson. I saw Paul Robeson. Just flashed in my head. You know, in terms of who and what this country has produced, you take a Paul Robeson, an incredible intellect, an incredible artist, an incredible man, an incredible human being who was strong enough to assert his manhood and the viciousness and the viciousness of how he was treated really does indict a system that treated him that way.
Absolutely. And my position on that, Rock, is that we have to stop, I believe, in my opinion, acting surprised when that happens or even offended. The stronger you are, the more of a threat you are. The more of a threat you are, the more your enemy will work as hard as they can to neutralize you as a threat. When the Golden State Warriors saw LeBron James coming to town, the more threatened they were, and the more they said we have to do everything in our power to neutralize the adversary. That's competition. That's straight. I mean, you know, and it happens in the wild. You know, animals do the same thing to each other, and so rather than us sort of feeling like somehow they're going to treat us fairly and kindly and politely and give us what we ask for, I think we have to understand that certain things we're going to have to fight for. And there are a lot of people that have realized that they even had to die for it. When you think about Frederick Douglass, you know, I was thinking about when he fought the slave breaker who's going to break him down and neutralize him at an early age, and he just fought back so hard that the slave breaker never whooped him again, just walked away. And one of my friends mentioned, they said, well, you know, typically the penalty for fighting the slave breaker was death. And I said, you know what? They probably regret the fact that they did not kill him, right? Because look at what he did. Look at what happened when you don't neutralize the threat and you let the threat live and grow and become what he became. He becomes what Frederick Douglass was to the world. Same thing with Muhammad Ali. You look at Tupac Shakur, for example, on the hip hop side. You're looking at very vibrant, masculine, strong spirits. And these spirits, typically in America, are going to be neutralized at an early age. That's why they try to murder the black man before he's even born. When they're advertising abortion to your mama to keep you from even having the baby, that's all part of a strategy. Go to South Africa and you see that they market abortions much more heavily in black neighborhoods than in white neighborhoods. So, and then what they do is they murder the black man spiritually, economically, intellectually, and otherwise through the public school system. You're dropping them off to let some lady from the suburbs teach your son. Well, guess what? She's going to tell him all kinds of things about himself that are not healthy. She's going to make him believe that who he is not good enough and that he has to be whatever little feminine, weak little passive man that she wants him to be be in order to fit into that system. Then they murder his spirit with the media, with all the imagery that he sees. Nothing is productive and strong and intelligent for the black man. Everything that he's presented with is destructive and backward and intellectually deficient, right? And then you look at the economic system. They neutralize him there as well, because every black man's raised to be polite, go to school, work hard, and get a good job, instead of doing what the majority of black men must do, which is learn how to start a business. You must, in fact, knowing how to start a business is the greatest form of unemployment insurance that there is. Because if you know how to start a business, you'll never be without a job. And black men are the most unemployed group of people in America. So I think that what's really true is that, look, God has put all of the answers right in front of us. He has every single signal we need to know that we are hated in this country has been provided for us in plain sight. We just need to start paying attention to the signals and reading the writing on the wall. And the last point I'll make on that, in fact, and this is just me, stream of consciousness, but I saw the Tupac movie last night, and I said, you look at Tupac's spirit and the energy he had and just the impact he had on the world. Go back to when he was a baby, when his mother raised him in an Afrocentric environment. See, Pac at an early age knew who he was.
Yes.
He said, I'm not a white man in black man's clothing. I'm a strong black man. I want to be a revolutionary. And that's what he carried with him throughout his life. Most black boys don't get that. Most black boys are not told who they are. They never know who they are. So you end up trying to become a cheap imitation of somebody else, which makes you less of a man than you would have been if you knew who you were from the very beginning.
I was watching a clip from the Breakfast Club, and I've admired you for quite some time.
Oh, mutually.
Well, thank you. I saw something that I just was totally unaware of when you shared, and I really understood what you said, that there was a point when you, Dr. Boyce Watkins, as an adult, was technically homeless. I mean, you'd gotten to that point where you couldn't pay your rent and folks had, I guess, given you the notice or whatever. Can you share with my audience that period of time, and then we're going to talk about the trajectory?
Man, I have to kind of share that, because one thing that I find that happens, because you have a lot of our people that are addicted to hopelessness, that are addicted to believing that we can't ever come up with a solution to anything, and sometimes feeling sorry for yourself is like a drug. It's like, and a lot of us are pulling out the needle, and that's what keeps us numb, so you don't have to actually face accountability, in terms of doing the hard work necessary to get yourself where you want to get.
Misery loves company, and sometimes that misery is comfortable to you.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. No. You can get a lot more attention from black folks by complaining about the problem than you can by solving the problem. Because solving the problem means work, right? Some people don't want to do the work. They'd rather sit and say, well, X, Y, Z didn't happen because somebody didn't let me, blah, blah, blah. So the reason I tell that story is because when you're trying to push solutions, first of all, a lot of folks are going to get mad at you just for even believing that a problem is actually solvable by us. But I just kind of come from the belief that there's nothing that another man can do for me that I can't do for myself. I just really believe that. But then also you have some people that deliberately try to create a detachment. They try to make you unrelatable to everyone else by saying, oh, well, he's a professor, he don't know nothing. Well, guess what? I've been a black man far longer than I've been a professor. I am a professor I am not a professor who happens to be black. I'm a black man who happens to be a professor. And then the second thing is that people will say, oh, well, you got money, you doing good, you don't know what it's like to be in the struggle. And my position is, F you. Let me tell you, I could probably tell you more about the struggle than you can tell me about your struggle. Because I remember, and this is just one example, I mean, I could tell you a million stories about getting cars repossessed, lights cut off, roaches in the fridge, all of that. I got those stories, but the one I brought up was, I remember I was about, and this was a great time for me because it reminded me of like those superhero movies where typically the person that becomes stronger, they go through some horrible accident. You know what I mean? Something that just tears them down to almost nothing.
Refinement.
And yes. So I was going through that period. It was I was 27 years old, and it was one of the darkest times in my life. I had gone through an huge emotional setback. I'd loved this woman for a lot of years, and I had a son that I raised as my own, and she I was off working and everything. She met another man and went through that devastation. I was just, and so I was dealing with that. I was living in Rochester, New York, this place would, it seemed lily white to me, and the weather was horrible, and also, I was really struggling, in terms of trying to get through through my PhD program. Getting a PhD in finance is really, really difficult. I did, and I was just it was like a rock bottom kind of situation, And then on top of that, you throw in the money problems, some of which, maybe I could have prevented if I'd been a little more financially intelligent at that time. I was growing into this, whatever I am now. And I'm still growing. I'm not perfect, but back then I was even less perfect. I was more imperfect than I am right now, And so during that time, I remember to speak on the homeless part. I didn't have the money to pay my rent. And I had to break my lease in the middle of the night, and I had only enough money to rent a van one way to get to Ohio, because that's where I had a place to stay. And so I rented this van. I packed everything I owned in this van, and it was so full. I remember that I had my basketball on the dashboard. There literally was nowhere in the car to put so I was driving, because I wasn't gonna get rid of my basketball. So I'm driving like this from New York to Ohio. I kid you not, man. And and it was a struggle, but the thing was, even at that time, two things happened. Number one, that was a great experience for me, because there's something that happens, like, when everything you believed in, every dream you had kind of has been shattered. I really was wondering, like, what my future was going to be like, if I was ever going to get the PhD, if things were ever going to really work out. And I remember just crying at my desk, and I remember just getting tired. I said, I'm not going to pretend to be somebody else. I'm not going to fit in and try to hope that these white folks like me, because I'm a good person, and I learned how to love who I was without feeling like I had to change who I was to make everybody else happy. So at that moment, I said, damn it, Boyce Watkins he's an okay guy, and my best chance of success is to be the best version of Boyce that I can possibly be, because I got a monopoly on that. You can't copy that. There will never be another person on earth better at being Boyce Watkins than me, and that to me exceeds sort of being a cheap imitation of a white man. If I'm trying to be a white man, I'm always be second best, because I'll never be as good at being a white man as white men already are. So at that moment, that was when, like, the Boyce Watkins you know now, that was when he was kind of born, just sort of through that chaos. And me laying in bed for 2-3 weeks, maybe over a month, depressed over this whole. I mean, losing a woman is one thing, but losing a child is a whole other level of pain and agony to stay with me for many years. And I remember just having a day where I said, man, I'm not gonna lay in this bed no more. So I got up and I started doing push-ups and sit-ups. It was like a Rocky movie or something, And the best part was that I feel like I came out so much stronger at that point. And I got rejected by systems. The opportunities that were there before, some of them went away because militants mindsets don't really fit so well in those environments. But the best part was that I was able to do so many things in my life that I never thought were possible. I actually went a lot further in my career by sort of taking, going off the beaten path, than by sort of trying to fit into this little box. And that's what I encourage black men to do, is find out who you are and not be afraid of that person. Accept him, love him despite his flaws, because he ain't gonna be perfect. You can't just love yourself when you're doing stuff right. You gotta learn to love yourself when you F up. And that's the hard part, and keep working on that. And that's really, to me, where you get a chance to really tap in to whatever greatness you have.
Intentionally, on purpose. I start this show off by saying we hope to inspire my viewing audience by stories of extraordinary achievement. And I really was hoping that you would be open to express and share what you just shared. Because too often, folks look at people on TV and see them as being other than myself. They are something that is not I, the viewer, can't necessarily relate to. So I really appreciate you sharing that struggle, because I always envisioned that it's a mama or daddy out there that's got a 10-year-old or 12-year-old sitting there listening, and they're hearing Dr. Boyce Watkins talk. They're hearing Congressman so-and-so talk. They're hearing the local media guy here, Jim Vance, talk. But who were they prior to this time that people now bow at their feet is important, I think, for my audience and for folks that obviously you communicating on trying to reach to understand that aspect of the struggle.
Yes. The struggle is the best part in the sense that the struggle is what makes you strong.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really know a lot of people that are really successful. I don't even know if I consider myself in that category or not. But I will say that I don't know a lot of people who are really successful who don't have some pain attached to it. You know, like when you make that gain and make the progress, you have to go through the struggle. You got to go through that process of breaking something down to build something better. And I remember going through that because I was not raised in an environment that really promoted strong black consciousness or anything that would be defined as radical. I still even remember the first time I met Dr. Claude Anderson, and he was even explaining to me, this was years ago, and I remember him even saying that, you know, being radical is a good thing. You know, that means you're doing something different. And I remember thinking, yeah, I guess it is okay. But before that, before I talked to him about it, I remember I thought radical was bad, you know, that you're not gonna get what you want. And so I kind of had to grow into that by kind of having this first illusion that was there in terms of what I wanted to be in my life, and then having that all shattered and burned to the ground, so I could build something that was so much better, something that was in an image that more deeply connected to the truths that I was finding inside myself. You know, like for example, when I became a professor, I got my PhD. I remember teaching at Syracuse University and thinking, okay, I feel really accomplished right now. I'm making a lot of money. I have status and education, everything else. But I'm teaching a room full of white kids. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong. They were wonderful children, wonderful young people. But I was like, okay, I mean, this kid, you know, this Jewish kid who comes from a millionaire family, he already knows how to make money. I should be teaching black people. You know, I should be talking to my own. Why am I, you know, and I started questioning that. And that's what led me to realize, okay, there's some adjustments I have to make in order to really be where I'm supposed to be. And so what I would say to parents in terms of really building strong, empowered black people is, first of all, stop believing that the public school system is going to do that. I don't believe most public school systems in this country are equipped, nor do they have the incentive or desire to build strong and empowered black people, especially black males.
Not designed. It's not designed to do that.
Exactly. It's not even designed to build empowered white males. Really, I mean, really, it even disappoints the white community, but it really is going to disappoint you. So I think that we have to take over the education of our own children. We do have the ability to have systems. You got homeschool networks across the country. The best university in the history of the world is called Google.com. You can Google things, have your children write book reports, you know, things like that. Because if your child knows reading, writing, if they're doing these things on a consistent basis, they're going to be fine educationally. Reading, writing, math, they know black history, they know how to start a business, and then something that gives them some critical thinking skill, right, which isn't rewarded in the school system. School systems reward conformity, sit down, shut up. They don't really reward creative thinking and kind of figuring things out. I think that we have to take over the education of our children. Also, I believe every black child in this country should learn how to start a business before the age of 12. If black boys especially were to spend half the time learning how to run businesses as we spend playing football, dribbling basketballs, learn how to rap and all this other stuff, then we would take over the world. We would be the greatest entrepreneur. We would be beyond every other community. Forget catching up. I don't care about terms like we're going to achieve equality and, you know, diversity and closing the gap. No, I ain't closing no gap with nobody. Who says, what law is there saying that I'm supposed to compare myself to somebody else or to a white man, a Jew? No. I believe black excellence means being the best that we can be, to the point where at the end of the day, I think that in 100 years, we will be the envy of other communities. They will look at us and say, wow, let's do it like the African Americans do it. I think if we pick up on a protocol like that in a generation, you will see changes overnight.
I would love for you to pick at a scab. If I travel down Martin Luther King Avenue here in Washington, D.C., or any other major city, it's not too long before I see multiple Asian restaurants, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, whatever it might be, corner stores. Our Indian brothers and sisters seem to operate and own all of the 7-Elevens, and a multi-billion-dollar industry that we patronize, that the black community patronizes, but is woefully short in any kind of ownership. What is it that those communities know and do that the black community doesn't?
Well, there are a few things. Culture is huge when it comes to how you view business and entrepreneurship, or how you even make your money. You know, everybody values money. Everybody wants it, needs it for something. And so when your child comes up and says, how do I get some money? You know, different families will have that conversation in different ways. Like, for example, an Asian family, or even Donald Trump's family. I know that's a funny term to bring up in the black community, but I would doubt to you that Donald Trump ever talks to any of his children about working for somebody else.
Go and get a job.
Right, boy, you better go get a job.
Right.
You don't really hear that kind of conversation in some families. And it's not just a wealth thing. I mean, you've got families that are not very wealthy, where they never have a conversation about working for other people. Also, if you ask a child at the age of, say, 5 or 6, what is money? What is money used for? You know, a lot of families, the child will say, "Oh, the money's used for me to buy stuff.
Go get some
I
toys.
can buy candy. I can get toys with that, right?" And it doesn't grow beyond that, right? Whereas a more economically evolved family might say, "Well, money, yeah, you can buy stuff with money, but money is also used to invest. Money is a source of capital that you can use in order to go make more money, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Money should be saved.
A tool.
Right, money's a tool, right? So, you know, I think that what I've seen in a lot of families that that sort of have these businesses and things like that is that there is kind of an understanding of a few things that I think black folks kind of have to kind of process a little bit. Is number one, I don't know a lot of Asian families that really feel that anyone kind of owes them anything. I don't think that they say, well, you know, we're gonna do better when white people give us more jobs, or when white people, or when they sign off on reparations, or when the government does X, Y, Z. It's not to belittle those who are affiliated with the government, or the reparations debate. We know reparations are old, but I ain't waiting for no reparations. I mean, you wait, you're gonna be a dusty skeleton by the time they arrive. And when they do get here, you know it ain't gonna be nothing. It's gonna be watered down. You know how they do over there. You know, and so I think that's part of it. I think also, you know, kind of sort of just knowing that the family is one of your most important economic centers that you have access to. Your family really can be like a bank for you. It is a bank if it's used in the right context. What do I mean by that? Well, if you got 6 people that all sort of just want to make sure everybody's good, everybody's taken care of, which means I'm going to provide not just money when you need it, in loans to start businesses, but I'm also going to provide resources, maybe labor. You need somebody to come in and help you out the shop. Sure, I'll come in because I owe you. You're my cousin. That's what I'm supposed to do. We're going.
And that's what these other cultures are doing.
Yes. Yeah. Because if you took any family and everybody just committed to pooling their resources to building and buying things, there are a lot of things you can build and buy. I mean, you know, if in fact, you know, I have fun with my students explaining to them, you know, like, well, do you know if I took all the money that you've spent at McDonald's or in fast food restaurants over the last 20, 30 years, you know, if I put that money in the stock market, you'd probably have about $500,000 in the bank right now, right? And it's fascinating because what happens is a lot of our resources and our energy goes outward. You know, what are your resources, right? Your resources might be the money in your pocket, your free time, meaning your labor, you know, things like that. But what do? You know, as a family, you got a family of 4. Everybody goes out and gets a job, so they're giving their time and their energy to something else. You know, you're building somebody else's economic empire because you don't really ever, it doesn't even really come to mind that you could be at home putting that time into building something of your own. Or your money. You know, you're spending money, you got a cousin that starts a business. A lot of black families don't even understand that. You know, a lot of the families I've seen, they know how to celebrate when Pookie just got a job. But if Pookie says, I'm trying to start a business, they kind of feel like, okay, so the business is something to hold you over until somebody wants you. Oh, Pookie can't get a job, so he got a little business. That's cute, right? But they don't really take it real seriously. And then when Pookie starts the business, you know, the question is, are you going to actually buy from him? You know, are you using your networks and inviting people to come to his shop? Are you showing up to give him some free labor? Are you making investments in his business? Or are you saying, no, I don't believe in that. I'm going to go put money into other things. We tend to put our money in things that we believe in. Black people don't really believe in each other. Right? You know, we just say, well, you know, I don't want to invest in your thing because I don't think it's going to do very well. But we invest a lot of time and a lot of money into other institutions that are owned by other people.
You know, I think I hear you defining a particular mindset that is a mindset that would graduate to a sense of independence away from dependency.
Absolutely. If anybody needs to be independent in America, it's black people. And the paradox of our struggle, you know, for freedom and everything else that we're aiming for, the paradox is that the very system that you're fighting is also the very system that you feel you have to show up to with your hand out asking them to pay your bills. I don't know a single situation where an oppressor can be paying somebody's bills and still giving them freedom, the freedom and liberation that they're looking for. Right. It's just like, you know, it's like a child that's saying, well, mama, I'm a man, I'm a grown man, I need you to treat me like a man, but he can't even afford to find a place to live by himself. He can't even take care of himself. You know, so there's what I would call an economic maturity that some of us have to develop to kind of realize a couple things. Number one, America really doesn't like you very much. Here's the thing. Most Americans don't like each other. But I don't think the Jews sit around worried that the Asians don't like them, or the Asians worried that the Arabs may not like them. They don't care. They just sort of assume, well, everybody just takes care of their own. You take care of yours, I'm gonna take care of mine. Black people are the only ones, to some extent, collectively, where our feelings get hurt when other people either say bad things about us or act like they don't care about us. What makes you really think that they're ever going to care about you? That's the thing. So why are we running like Black Lives Matter? God bless, I love it. It's great movement, but it's sort of like, why are we holding up these signs saying Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter? We just need you to understand and feel and change your hearts and minds. No, they're not going to do that. And by you behaving in that way, what you're doing is you're showing a lack of understanding of how hardcore politics and global economic competition actually works. You know, in this world, we live in a world where one group conquers another group. If you're not strong enough to defend what you got, you go right down to D.C., or just not the part of D.C. with the monuments and the all these big government buildings and everything, and you see all these symbols of strength. Like, you know, some guy sitting on a horse with a sword. You know, to me, what that's really saying is, we fought for this, we own this, and you better not come and try to take this, or we will kill you, right? And I don't think black people have that type of strength. Even if you look at the way you had those folks responding to Dylan Roof. Dylan Roof walks up in a church and murders a whole bunch of black folks. First thing they're doing is they sitting in the courtroom trying to forgive him. Like, you don't do that. You don't forgive people who just murdered your relatives. Forgive them in private, but you get vengeance in public. You deal with that. You know, and I don't think black people get that, because we've been trained to be passive for 400 years.
Let's talk a little bit about some of your initiatives. Every child, you said every child, especially you focus on boys, needs to learn how to start a business. What are the mechanics that you teach to make that happen?
Well, in the Black Business School, and we've got almost 40,000 students now. It's all digital. We're getting some physical offices in different cities. We made a partnership with Simmons College of Kentucky. They actually created a whole institute. It's called the Dr. Boyce Watkins Economic Empowerment Institute. I thought that was
Congratulations.
Cool. Thank you, man. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you. I always wanted to be at an HBCU, so it was great. I was very excited about it. And so in the Black Business School, one of the things we try to do is we encourage families to make basic wealth building just a part of your family culture. Just very basic conversations you can have with your children at an early age. You don't have to be educated at the highest levels to do this. But just little things that you say to your children will shape the whole trajectory of where they go. You know, like my grandmother was the first person to introduce me to compound interest. My grandmother, never made more than $22,000 a year. She had an associate's degree. She wasn't married, took care of 4 kids by herself. And she, was the only person in my family I noticed who never had a financial problem. People who made $100,000 a year would come to her to borrow money. And I didn't understand that. And I noticed when I look back in my life, I remember that it was just the basic conversations about compound interest that my grandmother had by giving me savings bonds at Christmas. That's what led me to become a finance professor, because I did not understand. I would look at this bond and it would say 100 on it. I'd be like, is this $100? Like, Grandma, like, what is this? She said, no, it's not worth $100. I bought it for 50. And I'd be like, well, why does it say 100? And she would say, oh, but it'll be worth $100 in 7 years. And that's when I started being introduced to the fact that money can actually grow if you position it where it can grow. And that's what led me to do all the other things I did in my life. So with your kids, the tiniest things you say and do they're going to take it and they're going to run with it. They're going to make it into something that you can't even envision. So that's what we encourage a lot of families to do, is just sort of have basic wealth building conversations. So one of our programs is called Black Millionaires of Tomorrow. It's a popular program. We have about 5,000 kids. We want to get 100,000 in the next 7 to 8 years.
I really want to take an opportunity to slow down on that, because so my viewers are interested. So how do they become a part of that? How do they get involved?
Well, a great place to go to see a lot of our programs is blackfinancialliteracy.com. That's blackfinancialliteracy.com. That's where a lot of stuff is there. And also, even if a person can't afford to do a program right now, and they don't cost a whole lot, but even if you can't afford it, you can still sign up for things for free. And we want everybody to have a chance to get something, because there are very basic things you can do. For example, I created a model for black families on how to turn your child into a millionaire. And people thought I was just making it up and snake oil. I said, no, my master's in mathematics. It's all about the mathematics. So the model is KID, knowledge, investment, discipline. And what we do is we break down to parents step by step how you can take your newborn baby and make sure that by the time that child is 35 to 40, they have an 80 to 90% chance to becoming a millionaire, just by very basic investments. For example, a lot of people don't know that if you invest, if let's say 20, 30 years ago, you had invested, say, $5 a day in the stock market, which is the amount of money it costs to buy a McDonald's value meal. If you did $5 a day, after 10 years, you'd have about $30,000. After 20 years, you'd have about $102,000. After 30 years, you'd have $281,000. After 40 years, you'd have about $770,000. Now, think about this. By the time you get to the 770 mark after 40 years, and again, for a newborn baby, 40 years old, they're still pretty young enough to really make some moves, right? So $770,000, the original investment, the amount of money you actually put in would only be about 75 over the course of a 40-year period. So what I love to try to help people understand is that think about how that 75 became 775. Well, it's almost 10 times more. Well, that's the magic of compound interest. Albert Einstein actually said that compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe, because he was fascinated with how fast money can grow if you let it grow. You know, but the problem is that we're trained in two ways as black people. We're trained to be laborers and we're trained to be consumers. We're not trained to be owners. We're not trained to be investors. So when you are a laborer, you're always working for somebody else, which makes it very difficult for you to really build wealth. As a consumer, you're trained to just make it rain on everybody else, right? And you got a lot of black folks that really believe that we don't have the ability to build wealth for ourselves. But what's crazy is that the other communities, we are building wealth for all of those communities. They see our value. We don't see our value, right? So, because you can't tell me that a Korean who owns a hair shop isn't looking at black people and they don't, you can tell me they don't know when our tax refund checks are coming, because that's going to be a huge stimulus package for their family. So at the end of the day, what I try to help people understand is, look, if you just take a fraction, just a tiny fraction of that money that you're spending, making it rain on everybody else, and just make sure you make it rain on your children and your grandchildren and let that money grow, then that can make a huge difference. So you don't have to change who you are. You don't have to become a miser and save every penny or anything like that. Just pick one thing. I tell them, pick one thing in your budget. Like, if you like to eat fast food, go to Popeye's Chicken and all the unhealthy stuff that people like to eat. Okay, cool, do that, but just promise yourself that you'll never spend more money on fast food than you put into your children's investment account, right? Or if you like to get your hair done every couple of weeks, if it is $50 every 2 weeks, then say to yourself, I'm gonna at least make sure that that's the same amount I put into my investment account. Or if I buy a pair of Jordans for $200, okay, go buy $200 worth of Nike stock. Because if a person had done that, like let's say every time you bought a pair of Jordans and you bought the same amount of Nike stock, if you've been doing that for 25 years, you'd have hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Instead of having a closet full of shoes. So the economic maturity is not a matter of taking the giant steps, it's the little steps. And then what happens is the magic of time, called the biggest factor in wealth building and wealth equations is time. Mathematically, if I show you math equations that define how money grows, the most important variable is time. So all you do is you plant the basic seeds consistently over a long period of time, and next thing you know, you'll see everything change in a generation. In fact, most people in America that become millionaires, they don't get rich quick. They get rich very, very slowly. And that really is sort of anti the myths that were fed in media that, you know, you get rich because you got a record deal or an NBA contract
with a big bonus.
That stuff don't work.
Right. A Facebook friend posted this week that she had lived, and I'll not share the name to protect the guilty. but she's a prominent radio personality. I'll give some hints. But she said she had lived in the same place for 8 years, and she was getting ready to move. And in packing up and preparing to make this move, she realized what an absurdly ridiculous consumer that she had been over these years. And so much of what she had consumed, she had no use for, didn't want it. It was clutter now that she was trying to move to do this new place. And, she said she got religion. She said, I want to see my floors. I want to see my walls. I don't want my closet to be jammed packed and clothes falling out of them when I open it. I shared it with my wife, and we had a discussion about just how consumer-oriented we are.
Yes. And here's the thing that's interesting to me, Rock. Now, black people, we just tend to lead the pack in a lot of categories, but I will say this. It's really not just us. It's really all of America.
Mm-hmm.
And what the reason is that corporations have they have science where they study all of the different ways they can trigger whatever emotion they need to trigger to get you to go buy something.
Mm-hmm.
For example, there are studies that show that people who are either poor or who are black are more likely to want to spend on luxury items because deep down you believe that if I dress like a rich man or whatever it is, they're going to treat me differently. They won't treat me like a nigga because I look like I'm distinguished, right? And so a lot of times they'll play those mind tricks on you. Most spending is emotional. Most spending is impulsive. Spending money affects the same region of the brain as cocaine. So spending or receiving money. Professor Andrew Lowe at MIT studied that. So literally, there is a high that you get.
So, and most of the time you hear that the people of the female persuasion say this. I need some retail therapy.
Yep.
So,
oh, that's real.
Yeah.
That's real. When you study, I watched a great documentary where they were talking about the history of department stores and how they started in France and how some men, they got together and said, okay, let's figure out which emotional triggers will cause housewives to come out of their house and go shopping and give us all their money. And that still continues to this day. One of the great retail experts in America, I don't remember his name, but he was a nephew of Sigmund Freud. And Freud was having trouble financially, so he reached out and got all of his uncle's research to figure out all the little subconscious things they could do to make women go buy things. So women are really the biggest targets and the biggest victims when it comes to consumer manipulation. And so the way I see it is that, but the thing is, it's not just women. I mean, I was a spendaholic myself.
Sure.
I had to get in tune with that and find little ways to make sure that even as I was spending, I still spend. I still enjoy my money. But what happens is I learned how to eat my vegetables before I eat dessert. So that didn't mean I stopped spending. What would happen is, number one, when I wanted to really save money, I would have the money taken out of my account and just put into my investment account before I even saw it.
Before you saw it.
Yeah, because I noticed that money would just burn a hole in my pocket. If I had money, I'd be like, okay, I want to go spend it.
Yeah.
But if I never had it, it would be almost like it never existed. So that I was able to save up over $250,000 just by having the money taken out of my account. Another thing.
Oh, so stop there, because you said money burn a hole in your account. Because I was going to ask you, because there's been a debate. My dad believed that you shouldn't walk around with a whole lot of money in your pocket. It got you in trouble. But the debate is walking around with a pocket. The other side to that was walking around with a pocket full of money makes you feel good. and I just wondered, have you thought about that at all in terms of when you talk to these young black kids that growing into to becoming teenagers about that?
I haven't talked to them about that specific thing. But my thought would be that it's a personal thing, right? The majority, 90% of all financial situations and outcomes are psychological. The psychology behind money is that's the factor that determines whether you're going to be okay or not. For example, a person who always thinks like a spender is always going to be broke because when you get more money, they just spend more money, right? Money makes you a bigger version of what you already were. And if you were charitable before you had money, then when you get money, you'll be even more charitable, etc. And so for some people, yeah, having that pocket full of money is not good. It's going to cause them to blow it. But I've seen other people who say, you know what, I'm going to carry some cash. I just won't bring my credit cards. And that way, when I'm done spending, I'm just done. I don't have the option of dipping into the card to go into debt over whatever. Because consumer debt, meaning debt over silly stuff and credit card debt, is one of the biggest problems in this country. Consumer debt and credit card debt, those are the two things that get a lot of people into trouble. And so, so I think that it's a matter of figuring out what your triggers are. Where's your financial leak? And you got to close that leak. Another little thing people can do is a lot of people spend first and they save what's left. I say do the opposite. You save first and then you spend what's left. No item in your budget is more important than your financial future. And there are a lot of people that are living a life that's very insecure financially, and they just don't see the insecurity. They won't see it until they lose the job, or until the economy goes south, or until the housing market plummets or whatever. And then at that point, you realize how exposed you were. Back in 08, it was like that. A lot of people didn't know how financially insecure they were until a crisis hit. People who lived through the Great Depression didn't really have that problem because they know what it's like to, to really struggle. In our, the last 30, 40 years have been pretty prosperous for us. So we feel almost a false sense of security, if you ask me.
Can I ask you to do a Reader's Digest version explaining debt, how it can be great and how it can also be horrible?
Yes. You can think about debt like fire or even a gun. If you ask somebody, is fire good or bad? Well, it depends, right, on what you use it for. It's good if you need to cook your food and keep yourself warm, but it can be bad, if somebody gets burned alive. And so at the end of the day, what you know about fire is that it's powerful. Anything powerful can be used for good or for evil, to build or to destroy, etc. Debt is the same way. You have people like maybe a Dave Ramsey who just says, say no to debt, no to debt. I can't say I agree with that. I like Dave Ramsey, very smart guy, but I think that's one area where I would end up disagreeing because debt is a very powerful way to accelerate your financial life. It's almost
can be an economic tool.
It can absolutely. It absolutely can be. Just like muscle or weight. If you ask an athlete, is it better to have a little more, boxer even, is it better to have more weight or less weight? Well, it depends. What division are you in? What kind of weight are you talking about? Are you talking about muscle or are you talking about fat, right? Well, debt is the same way. If you're talking about economic muscle, debt can be almost like a financial time machine where if you're able to borrow some money, you can make certain moves and move things a little faster than you would if you had to wait and, say, bootstrap it, save up the money over a long period of time. One thing I'll say to make that very simple is self-made millionaires tend to have one clear rule when it comes to debt. They will take on more debt as long as that debt helps them make more money. So debt for a business, as long as it's not too much, check. Debt to go to school, check. As long as it's not too much. Debt to buy a home, check. But debt to go to the mall, no. Debt to just go out to eat and silly stuff like that, no. So ultimately, that's how people want to view debt, is that it's not always bad. It's good to have access to capital, especially if you're trying to be an entrepreneur, but you have to be extremely responsible with the debt because the power of the debt can crush you.
We have 90 seconds. Let me ask you, man, because you're so extraordinarily literate with this, and folks that, pay attention to you, they get your message. And I think you've got, I've seen that you have a lot of admirers out there. If you weren't doing this, what would you want to do?
Be in the NBA. If I had the talent. Outside of that, I don't know, man. This is where I'm supposed to be. I can't think of anything else. I just.
When somebody says this is where I'm supposed to be, that's a wonderful answer. If you would share your website and where folks can get in touch once again, we've got about 30 seconds left and we'll wrap it up.
Okay, well, a great place for people to go to just get into the system would be drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. And you can get a free wealth building lesson. We got a whole bunch of free stuff we send out to you, free copy of my ebook to kind of get people started. And then at that point, once you're in the circle, you'll hear from me all the time.
Financial literacy website?
Yes, and blackfinancialliteracy.com. That's blackfinancialliteracy.com.
Thank you so much for what you do, man. And thank you for visiting us today.
Thank you, man. It's an honor.
Folks, that wraps us for this evening. For more information on this program or any other program Produced by WHUT. Go to WHUT.org. Goodbye, and may God bless you.
This program was produced by WHUT, Howard University Television, and made possible by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.
It's Atlanta's #1 hip-hop station, Hot 107.9 and home for the Ricky Smiley Morning Show. Of course, you know it's your boy B-High, radio shout-in. Stepping in the building right now, I have a doctor, author, financial advisor, business owner, and web host, Dr. Boyce Watkins. What's good with it, boss?
Oh, not much, brother. How you doing today, man?
I mean, I'm feeling good, feeling great right now, man. I'm ready to get into this all-black national convention, though, doctor.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we pulling everything together, trying to have a real black conversation. You know, I use the words all black just to make a very clear point. You ain't got to be black to be there, but everything that we talk about, the whole agenda from start to finish is black, 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 black. You know, it's not like the Democratic National Convention where they might mention black folks for like 3 seconds.
Exactly.
You know, the Republican National Convention, you know, where they don't mention black people at all. I wanted something that clearly had the word black in it.
That's right.
And we use the word all to double, sort of make the double impact. And it's going really, really well, man. People are really excited.
I mean, what topics are we touching in this convention?
A lot of topics. Everything from the struggles with the educational system, police brutality, the issue with intergenerational wealth. We're going to show the film Resurrecting Black Wall Street, have a conversation on what it takes to build a Black Wall Street in your family and in your community. We got wealth experts coming in from all over the world. We also have conversations on black men, sort of rebuilding the image of the black man in America. We're actually launching Black Men United, our advocacy group for black men. So it's a strong panel. We got different brothers from different perspectives, from David Banner and Killer Mike to guys like Dr. Roosevelt Mitchell III, Yurima Karama, et cetera, who are going, you know, and also, in fact, there's a brother named Ken Williams, who's a former police detective, who's going to talk about police brutality. And so just lots of experts, man, that just, you know, are going to create something that I think is going to be just beautiful.
Now, what is it that made you go ahead and decide to do the convention to begin with?
I don't know, man. It came kind of like a flash of inspiration, to be honest with you. I mean, we have been doing events all over the country. We've probably gone to maybe 25 cities like this year.
Yeah.
And it was like, I just said, you know, we need to do something really special. And I just thought about it. Let's do a convention. Let's call it the All Black National Convention. And it was almost like you're sort of moving on faith, because a lot of times to do things at that scale, you have to have corporate sponsorship and just big money. And we didn't really have the resources. We had gotten kind of we wiped ourselves out in making these movies that we had been making, because we're trying to make, you know, create a film industry as well. But I just felt the spirit, man. And one thing I know about doing things that are bigger than yourself is that you're usually never going to feel ready, you know. And also what happens is you'll surprise yourself. You put the pressure on yourself. You just go hard and you have faith. And next thing you know, things kind of unfold. And so I've grown through this, man. I mean, I really didn't know exactly how it was going to turn out, but the support's been amazing. And now we're starting to hear from all these people around the world who are excited just like we are.
How do you feel when you look up and you see your people helping to finance what's going on through group economics?
I think it's incredibly important, because black people have to realize that we are not economically and psychologically handicapped. You know, we have been brainwashed to believe that we are a charity case, that we don't have the capacity to educate our own children, that we don't have the ability to create our own jobs, that we don't have the ability to do anything by ourselves without somebody coming along and saving us. And to understand how racial inequality works, think about how many things that white people do for themselves on a regular basis that we just don't believe we have the ability to do on our own. And I think that's wrong. And so maybe with this particular convention, there's no corporate sponsorship. Money ain't coming from outside the community. The bulk of everything comes from two companies I'm a part owner in. One is the blackbusinessschool.com, where we got 30,000 students, mostly black,
who are learning business and economics and everything else and how to start companies and all this other stuff. And basically the revenue from that is what's being used to finance all of this. And then also greatblackspeakers.com, which is a company, my brother owns it, but I own a percentage of it. And it's the largest black-owned speakers bureau in the country. And from the very beginning, when I first began my career as a public scholar, when I left the corporate plantation at Syracuse University, one of the things I wanted to do was to say, okay, I know who my heroes are. My heroes were Cornel West, Michael Eric Dyson, Julianne Malveaux, Louis Farrakhan, at that point, Al Sharpton. We don't really talk to each other as much, the Jesse Jacksons, et cetera. And so I felt that the next step in our evolution as a community would be, and again, at that point, it was a pipe dream. I mean, wasn't nobody really checking for Boyce Watkins at that time at all. And I said, but the next step would be for us to develop these platforms and spaces for ideas to be shared, but to sort of have it structured in a more independent way, in a sovereign way, right? Because think about this, most of the time throughout history, when a black person got out of line and said things that the majority of America didn't want to hear, first thing they do is they take your platform, to take away your money, maybe ruin your reputation, right? Why? Well, because that show you're on is owned by a network owned by somebody else. Those books you writing, the publishing company is owned by somebody else. That record deal you got, the record label, I mean, I could go on and on and on, right? You giving speeches over the speakers bureaus controlled by somebody else. So when you become kind of their least favorite Negro, they're gonna castrate you and throw you out the window and replace you with somebody else. So what we did was we tried to structure our organization. It was tough, but we structured it from the ground up to be protected against that kind of backlash. And what it does is it translates into a kind of freedom of speech that I think is pretty unique. I'm not really scared of anybody when I do what I do. I'm not scared to say nothing about anything. And I know I'm still going to have that 3, 4, 5 million people a week that we reach online. And it's a beautiful thing.
Speaking of another beautiful thing, financial lovemaking 101.
Yes.
Break that down to me, because see, one thing that I've noticed with my brothers and sisters, if they come together in a union, okay, it's already hard enough to get us to come together in a union, okay? We get them together, but they come in and they say, I came with this, you came with that, and I don't want to hear nothing else. How do we get them to bring that together?
You know what? It's funny. What you just said sparked a lot of thoughts, and I'll try to spit them out one by one so I don't sound crazy. But first thing is, there's two things we tend to think about a lot in adulthood. It's money and sex. Every day we think about one of those two things, or both of them, probably several times a day. I mean, people that say that they don't, they lying, right? So, and it's interesting that given that those are two things you think about the most in adulthood, it's ironic that these are the two things that most families never discuss in the household, right? You talk to your mom or your daddy about sex, the conversation is, well, just don't do it. I mean, that ain't gonna work.
And just save your money.
Right. I mean, right. We've been, human beings have existed for millions of years. People gonna always be having sex, right? And so same thing with money. Money becomes just such a powerful force in the lives of all of us that it's crazy that we would go into a capitalist society where money moves the whole society, and you don't understand nothing about money. It's a lot like being thrown into the NBA and you would never dribbled a basketball. You don't even know which basket to put the ball in, right? And so that's where a lot of us are. So when I thought about how to teach money, just money by itself, just worshiping money and all that always bored me. I was never interested in that, but I was intrigued by the power of money and the way it shapes people's lives, the way it shapes us as human beings. So as I would look for creative ways to talk about money, I realized that money can easily be linked to things that we understand from birth. Things like love and sex and relationships, right? You ain't got to teach nobody how to have sex. You know what I mean? They figure it out. You know what I mean? You ain't got to teach them how to fall in love. It just happens. And what's ironic, what's very interesting is that there are an infinite number of ways I can show you how the way you see money, the way you do business, the way we choose to buy black or not buy black, all of that links back to the universal language of love. And if you understand love, then you can understand investing, you can understand risk return, you can understand all of that. So financial lovemaking was just kind of like a fun little exercise. So a lot of couples will read it to talk about how they can merge, because that's the thing. Black people, unfortunately, because so many of us are traumatized and have that distrust, we have a hard time loving each other. And the way a love relationship works is the same way an economy works. When you don't have trust, then you don't have exchange, right? Like if you got a business and I'm a consumer and I don't trust you, I'm not going to give you my money.
right? Or if you're a business and you don't trust me as a customer, then you're not going to treat me. You're going to treat me in a way that's not going to make anything good come out of that relationship, right? You know, in fact, you have a lot of black business owners who say, I don't sell nothing to black people because black people, they always asking for the hookup. They ain't never got no money. They don't never pay on time, right? That lack of trust, right? Well, that same lack of trust that we have that keeps us from buying black is the same lack of trust that we have that keeps us from maintaining our marriages. It's the same lack of trust that causes so many of these young ladies, unfortunately, to have a baby and the daddy's gone before the baby even turns 1 month old. You know, I mean, think about it. You know what I'm talking about? And I'm not dissing it. It's just real. We see it, right? Like what the hell has to be happening that y'all get together, make a baby, and the dad and the family split up before the baby even comes to this planet and rebreathes his first breath?
One of the things I always say, the kids didn't ask to be here. And you figured out how to love somebody for them few minutes that y'all was getting it on, so y'all better figure it out when it comes to raising this child. Absolutely, and it is crazy. I mean, and I mean, the obvious thing is that's really not love, right? Exactly. That's something else. It's lust, it's attraction, it's all of that. Exactly. It's instant gratification. It's I want this because it's going to feel good, right? To me, love is something that's much stronger, subtler, requires more discipline, more commitment. Me really loving somebody, especially if I'm traumatized and I'm hurt, me loving somebody requires a lot of discipline. I got to fight through some walls. I got to fight through my walls and then your walls. You know what I mean? And so really, if you think about it, the ability of a black man to love a black woman requires him to have a deep-seated commitment to the black woman because the black woman's been through so much. In fact, for many black women, the first man she ever loved, her father, was not there for whatever reason. And so she's bringing that kind of those issues into the relationship that she may not even know are there. And a man has to really love her to fight through all of that. And the same thing is true. We know a lot of brothers out here are crazy because of what we go through as black men. You know, so black people loving each other requires a lot of work. So to me, that same love language must translate into an economic language. In order for a black consumer and a black business to love each other enough to want to support each other, you got to fight through some stuff. You're going to deal with some black businesses that might disappoint you. That's right. You know, that might not have the service you want, that may not have the prices you want. But if you really love your community, you know what I mean? If you're not just sort of in it because you're looking for the cheapest price all the time, then you're going to stick with it. You know, one black business lets you down, you go find another one. You know, so it's all the same thing. Another question, how easy is it to really invest? Because a lot of times we all see lump sums of cash, but we just don't know where to put it. Okay, you don't trust the bank, you don't trust yourself. You just say, you know what, let me just put the money out of sight and out of mind, and I'll come back to it, and hopefully it's magically grown somehow. How can we get into the business of investing our money and watching it grow?
At the blackbusinessschool.com, which people can actually join for free initially, we send them a video immediately on how to buy your first share of stock in 10 minutes. And the reason we do that is because we want the stock market to stop being scary to people. You know, there's no whites only sign on the stock market. You ain't got to be a millionaire to be in the stock market. You ain't got to have a PhD in finance to invest in the stock market. When you look at the gap in wealth between the rich and the middle class and the poor, most of that gap can be explained by one major factor, and that is stock market participation. You see, your money is not, you ask a 4-year-old, like, what is money? A 4-year-old will say something like, money's what I use to buy stuff, right? Or I can go buy candy with that, right? But then you go up 20 years, that same person might still think that that's what money is, that money's just used to buy stuff. And that's what they call consumption. Money's not supposed to be used all the time for consumption. Money is capital. Capital is supposed to grow. Capital is supposed to make you more money. It's like if I got a bushel of apples and all I see is how good I'm going to eat in the next 10 minutes, I'm missing the point. The value's in the seeds, right? And you know, so long story short, you know, when it comes to investing, first and foremost, I encourage people to just take the baby steps to start getting into the stock market. They think that it's about picking the right stock at the right time and, you know, and trading back and forth like the stock market's a casino. It ain't none of that. No, really, and I've studied all this. My whole dissertation was on the stock market. I know I studied the data, the history, all of that. And I'm going to tell you like this. Look, basically like this. If somebody wants to get started in the stock market, all they got to do is take about $100 a month and invest $100 a month in the market. Just pick any stock. Doesn't matter what stock you pick. Just randomly pick stocks, do $100 a month, and keep educating yourself over time. And I guarantee you, in 20, 30 years, you're going to have money. You're going to have a lot of money. And so some people may say, well, 30 years, I don't want to wait that long. But if you got a newborn baby,
I mean, think about this. You do that for your child from the time they're born, and by the time they're 30, they got hundreds of thousands, if not over $1 million available in the market. That's a game changer for them. They can make different life choices than you made. They're not going to have to go in debt to go to school. They're not have to go in debt to buy a house. They're not going to have to go in debt to get married. You know what? They're going to be able to quit their job and start a business and get the money without it being a big deal. And so the biggest thing about wealth building that I think a lot of people forget is that wealth building, if you look at most wealthy families throughout the history of the world, most wealthy families accumulate their wealth over many decades, many generations. Wealth building is not a sprint. It's not a sprint. It is a marathon, and it's a relay race. It's something where you run as fast as you can. You hand the baton off to your kids and make sure they're in a better position than you were.
I'm glad you said that, Doctor, because when we think about wealth and trying to have money as black people, we want what LeBron has. We want what Jay-Z and Beyonce has, because those are the images that we see in our faces on a daily basis. And we say, you know what, I need 100 million. I need $500 million. I need to be knocking on $1 billion myself. So let's talk realistically speaking. If you're trying to come out of the hood and you want to make sure that your child is living good, what is the steps that they need to take with their tax return February?
Okay, it's funny, but actually I had to start with what you were saying about LeBron and all that, man. I was talking to the brother who was on a different world, who played Dwayne Wayne's friend Ron. It's funny, man, because he said something that I thought was real cool. He said people don't understand that 80% of the wealth in this world has been in the last 2 years was created in Silicon Valley in technology. That literally, if we were as committed to technology as we are to basketball and singing and dancing and rapping and balling and all this other stuff, we could take over a sector that literally is where money is just being printed every day. You know, you can't afford to buy a house in Silicon Valley because there's so much money out there, right? And so basically, you know, if you talk about, you know, where the money's at, the money's not in entertainment. Most entertainers I know, you know a lot of entertainers too. You know the real story. A lot of these entertainers are not doing very well. They are this close to being homeless, and they're trying to maintain an illusion for the public, you know, fake it till you make it. You know, so you know, basically what I would say with our kids is we got to just realize like where the money's at. Mark Zuckerberg, who created Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg makes more money in a month than LeBron James will make in his whole entire life. He makes $1 billion a month from a business he created while he was in college. He started Facebook when he was 19 in college. Everybody else is going out getting turned up. He was sitting in front of the computer, pecking away, building a business, right? So, you know, we got to really think about where the money's at. But to your point, to what you were saying specifically, what somebody could do right now with their tax return, I would say number one, you have to have like a cushion of savings somewhere. Have something that can be easily turned into cash, because you save your money so your money can save you. So you may do that by putting your money, even if you put it in the stock market. The stock market is liquid. Liquid means that it can easily be turned into cash. If you need the money tomorrow, you sell the stock and you got the cash. But so I would go to the stock market, man, because, you know, like since Obama got elected, I'm telling you like this, just being real. Obama's policies, most of his policies did not help black people. They really didn't. But one thing that he did was he helped the stock market a lot. When they spent all that money recovering from the crash in 2008, that money went straight to the bank, straight to the stock market. Anybody who was in the stock market made a lot of money when the recovery took place. Even small investors in the stock market. So, you know, if I got, you know, let's say $1,000 for my refund, I go to, you know, Ameritrade somewhere else, get a little account, start buying some shares of stock. It does not matter really what stocks you pick. It ain't about picking the right stock at the right time. They did a study. I'll tell you why it doesn't matter. Look, they did a study where they had monkeys picking stocks by throwing darts at a wall. And so when, you know, wherever the dart landed, if it landed on IBM, they bought IBM. If it landed on Sears, they bought Sears. If it landed on Kodak, they bought Kodak. And then they compared the performance of the stocks picked by the monkeys to the best, smartest experts on Wall Street. And you know what happened? The monkeys won half the time.
Are you serious?
The monkeys won half the time. Yeah, so anybody who's out here kind of talking about like, oh, you got to pick this stock at this time, they're kind of making it into like a casino, and that's not really what the market has to be. Really, if you just spread your money out, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Your grandmother probably told you that when you were a baby, and just buy consistently and be patient. Just leave your money there. Let it keep growing. Keep adding money to it. Then eventually your wealth will grow, but it doesn't happen overnight. Now, if somebody wants to make fast money sometimes, you know, I don't recommend this being your only investment strategy, but I have found that the quickest, easiest way to make a lot of money quickly is by becoming a really, really good entrepreneur. Like if you want your family to really have money, then what you do is you shift the culture in your family right now. What do? Do not raise your children to believe that the only way they can get money is by going to a job and getting a paycheck. That might be a way to get some money. It works sometimes for some people, but there's nobody in America that's more unemployed than black people. So why would you want to depend on corporate America, which has proven itself to be racist time and again, to give you everything you need financially? So what I do with my kid is I would have my child, learning reading, writing, math, and black history and all the other stuff they need to know. And they can learn how to get a job if they want to. But from a very early age, I'm training them on having their own business. We're talking about this every day. We're going out here hustling, showing ways to get money. Because when you learn how to just go out here and just get money, then you never feel unemployed. You never feel like you're always just down and out and broke.
Revenue coming in from somewhere.
Yeah, you always figure it out. I mean, and that's really the new millennial way to make money. I mean, and so to me, like I've had businesses where I've invested $5,000 and turned it into $250,000 in like a year or two. Yeah, I mean, and so to me, the best decision I ever made in my life was not to go get a PhD. My PhD paid off. I made over $100,000 a year. I was doing okay doing that. But the best decision I ever made was when I just committed myself to really learning how to be a good entrepreneur. When you learn how to do that, man, it's like learning how to be a hunter. If you know how to hunt and you know how to get an animal in the woods and cook it and skin it and all that, you never feel like you're going to starve to death because the restaurants are closed. You know how to go get food, somehow.
theblackbusinessschool.com. What are some of the courses and topics that you cover on that website?
Well, at theblackbusinessschool.com, and it's I want to make sure you said the Black Business School. I want to make sure people always know that there's the Black Business School. We cover a lot of stuff, man. We have classes on everything from how to invest in the stock market to how to brand yourself. If you're a blogger or a public figure. Damon Dash co-teaches a class with me called Intelligent Boss Moves, where we talk about ways to build your independent business like a boss. And I saw Dame last week, and it's like Dame has a unique personality, and it has led to a lot of success. I mean, he's done some really amazing big things. But I think also you supplement that with all the details in the middle, so that people kind of can see it. Because I don't really think that people should simply sit back and idolize what anybody has done. Him, me, or your favorite entertainer, whoever it is. Sit and try to figure out what the game is, figure out how they did it, and figure out what your angle's going to be, And so what I love about the class I teach with Dame is that it sparked a fire in a lot of young people, especially young brothers or whatever, to help them realize that, you are meant to be a king. And unfortunately, in this society, the black man is not always positioned to be the king. Nobody will invite you into their castle and make you the king. They're going to make you the servant, or they're going to make you the entertainment. So if you want to be a king and you're a black man that wants to be a king needs to learn how to build a castle. Exactly. At least that's what I found.
You said that. Now, I mean, how do you think that this whole digital age has affected entrepreneurship and economics?
Oh, it's blew it out of the water. I mean, I'll tell you, if I'm sending my child to college right now, let's say that, my child, the most important thing my child's going to learn before they go to college and while they're in school is how to start a business. Because you got all these little white kids out there in Silicon Valley and everything else. They go to college and they start companies where the companies are worth $100 million by the time they graduate. Yeah. And it's like a basic idea, like, Snapchat, very basic, worth 14, 10, 12 billion or whatever it was. It's very basic things. And I think that there's nobody more creative than black people. We have really just flipped the world on its head, and everything we do, we always excel. So my argument would be that for the next generation, the game changer must be that in our culture, we must deeply infuse a commitment to understanding technology at the highest levels and understanding entrepreneurship at the highest levels. And I think that what's going to happen is you're just going to see us just do some amazing things, because the internet really has opened the door, the democratization of media. Now we can talk to each other without a filter. Yeah. So you see the best forms of hip hop now rising back to the surface. Exactly. You're seeing, people able to speak to the public that should have been allowed to speak, but have maybe been blackballed, like say Minister Farrakhan. And I just see it as like just a beautiful brand new day. And I know it saved my life, saved my whole career, saved my whole teaching career. Because I wanted to teach, but unfortunately, when you talk all this heavy black stuff, you get blackballed. Even some HBCUs wouldn't hire me. A lot of HBCUs. Because the secret that people don't know is that a lot of the certain departments don't even have any African American teachers. So you got some Chinese department head who's looking at you like, okay, you're a troublemaker. I don't really want you here. So HBCUs wouldn't even hire me. So what I did was I was like, well, I'm gonna create my own HBCU, and it was beautiful. We have 30,000 students. And I mean, as far as like income wise, I mean, there's no way. I mean, I think we grossed over $1 million last year. So it works better than a teaching job any day of the week.
Let's talk about growth from start to where you are now, because see, I know you didn't start with 30,000 students.
Yeah.
So how was it when you jumped out there with this idea and this bold idea on top of that? Because I mean, this digital age is going crazy now, but it still wasn't booming, and it still really hasn't even reached its peak. But when you started this, like I said earlier, it was the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, and it still is. It still is, but I'll say when I first started doing a lot of this, it was like maybe 04, 05. The first thing I did was because back then, for example, it wasn't cool to self-publish your own books. I self-published my book. It was everything you ever want to know about college, and I did it very badly. I did a lot of things very badly in the beginning. You know what I mean? I use, as far as like my funding source, didn't nobody give me money or a big break or nothing like that. I used money from my paycheck, and I would just, I build websites, do all this, that, and the other. I didn't know how to make money. I would go, I wanted to give speeches. Nobody would pay me to speak, so I would pay money to get a chance to speak. I would pay money to get a chance to write articles. And what made the difference was, a willingness to invest in myself. I went to AOL Black Voices, and I asked them, I said, well, can I write for you? Because at that time, they were the #1 black news website online in the country. And they said, well, we don't know if we can afford to pay you, because I had a PhD and this, that, and the other. I said, look, I'll make it easy. I'll work for free. And they thought I was just going to like throw them an article once every week or two. No, I was writing like 8 articles a day. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, again, like a business professor, wait a minute, this is the biggest black platform in the country, so I'm reaching all these people for free? Shit, I mean, I'll do this all day. Exactly. So during that time, that's when I built my first following. I built my first little mailing list, maybe 20,000 emails, whatever. And then I had my own little distribution network. Because that's the thing. When I came into media, I came into a thing, because I had a lot of media students at Syracuse, which has a pretty good media school. They would come to me and want to know, like, because they would start seeing me on CNN and whatnot, and they want to know how I did it. And the reason I was able to kind of get ahead of that curve was I thought about the business of media. In my mind, fame is it's a corporate product. It's manufactured and the people that got the power, the ones who control the money and the distribution channel, not the people who actually are on the stage, as those who build the stage and control the stage. They have the power, right? So I was like, well, I don't want to know how to be on the stage. I want to know how to control the stage, right? Exactly. So basically, I went into it. I started thinking about distribution. Okay, so I could build me a mailing list. I could reach a lot of black people with 20,000, 30,000 at a time. Now we're up to like 500,000, right? And then social media pops off, and I'm like, okay, how do you master this and figure out, okay, degrees of separation? Okay, if I reach, say, 50,000 intelligent black people and they all reach, say, 100 apiece, then that's a pretty big number. You see what I'm saying? That's like, what, 5 million, right? So I started thinking about it like that. And so what we did was I realized that you can actually build a distribution channel, a distribution network through social media, through email, through Twitter, through Facebook, through all of that, right? So long story short, that's how we built our network, man. And so to me, I was always a teacher. I was a businessman and a teacher. As a teacher, I thought of the internet as a giant classroom. You see what I'm saying? So when I get on my YouTube channel and we got like 100, I think we get about 3 million views a month, something like that on it now. Every day I go in there, I'm like, this is my classroom, man. And I love it because I always felt that the things that I was learning, my people needed this information. And what got me ahead of other scholars is that they were still thinking that it was 1995. They're still overcommitted to a system that has proven to be racist, dead, and antiquated. Exactly. And I was like, well, okay, y'all's asses can sit in the back. Y'all just stay in academia, keep being turtles, keep hoping the mass are gonna hook you up. I'm gonna run over here and see what happens. And it was beautiful because honestly, I didn't have any competition. I'm not the only smart scholar out here, but I was like, if I can't outsmart you, I'm gonna try to out hustle you. And then lo and behold, over time, it just kind of built up.
Give me that camera, JG. If y'all do not listen to exactly what he just said and follow him step by step, use the damn fool. Use the damn fool. Okay, now, doctor. Now, because you just gave the whole game to these folks, and the folks don't run with this, they don't have no excuses. I don't want to hear no excuses after this. Now, you and Dame Dash coming together, getting into the films and stuff. How do you feel about getting into the content game?
You know what? I've always seen the content game as a part of what I did. Creating content is easy. in my mind, because I don't think of it as something that has to look a certain way all the time. It's more about the substance. You know, I've never been a person that's really thought much about flash. I try to think about substance. Now I try to learn about flash, but substance is, I think, my strength. And so ultimately, you know, to me, content is, it could be a tweet, it could be a Facebook post, it could be a short video, you know. And so what I realized was, like, in Hollywood, they overspend on everything. They spend, you know, they'll spend, you know, $100,000 shooting a 3-minute scene in a movie, you know, crazy stuff like that, stuff that don't make any sense. So what I realized is that there's space for, like, this whole industry of good content, good films, good shows that Black people want to see, where you don't have to go through traditional distribution channels. You ain't got to wait for Lionsgate or Sony to hook you up. You can actually, if you got a, you know, big enough social media and everything else, you can distribute that way. So, so now my first foray into that was we started making our own films. Like, we made Resurrecting Black Wall Street, the blueprint to telling the story about the Black Wall Street Massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And that maybe cost, let's say it cost us $25 or less to make. But we were able to flip that into, you know, into our audience and bring back, let's say, 150, something like that, right? So that's profitable. It ain't Paramount Pictures, but it works, right?
It works.
Yeah. So with now with Dame and Kanye on the Too Honorable film, you know, it's a different kind of thing. Dame spent a lot of money making the movie. It's a bigger level of investment. But it's a similar idea. You know, we could go through the traditional route, but actually I really like going back to my audience. But we also made another film out west called Steel Justice that we just wrapped on. And again, that's more of an investment. And so what I wanted to do was really to figure out how to utilize our existing distribution channels, but also to use traditional channels as well. So I think with Steel Justice, that might go to a Sony or a Paramount or somebody like that. But really the goal is to sort of flip that money back in to build the base that Black people, to help build. I can't do it all by myself, but to play a role in sort of helping to build that base so that it's ours. But, you know, when you know, like if somebody said, hey, boys, here's a show on CNN, that would be cool, but I wouldn't really feel proud of that, because it'd be like, okay, I got here because somebody gave me the hookup, okay, it's nice. You know, but when you own something, when you create something that's yours, you know, you plant the seed and grow that tree.
Idea to conception.
Man, it's like the difference between babysitting a child and making a baby of your own. It's not the same. It's a different level. You know? So to me, what the exciting play is, I want to see a complete production, distribution, and monetization process for film content that's controlled by Black people. Well, we can go make the movies. Maybe we can't spend $100 million in this generation. Now, next generation, our kids are going to take it to the next level if we teach them the game the right way. But maybe we're spending less than $100,000 per film. But then when that film gets done, we make the distribution deals where you go through the digital channels. You got, you know, millions of loyal Black people who, again, who love the community enough to say, I want to be a part of this. I'm going to support this if it's good. And then also you maybe have a chain of Black venues to watch these films. Now, I would call them Black movie theaters, but they wouldn't be movie theaters in the traditional sense. It would be just venues with lower cost leases that are comfortable places for people to go watch a movie. You see what I'm saying? Like, so to me, that's exciting because I could see that in my head. You know what I mean? So like this year, we're going to make, I think, about 6 movies this year. Next year, we're going to go for like 15 to 20. And we're just going to do our best, man, see what we can do with it.
Now, for those youngsters and just creatives out there right now, see, the issue that they have no shortage of ideas, okay? And they can create anything from scratch. But crossing that chasm to monetization, that's really where the issues lie. How do you monetize that good idea that you have?
Okay, 2 things that people got to understand about what you just said. Number one, an idea ain't shit. An idea is like... It's a figment of your imagination until you make it real. You know what I mean? Like it can be great. It has potential, but it's nothing when you first have it. And anybody that's how you know the difference between somebody who's actually built something versus somebody who just has an idea. People with the idea really think that because having the idea is like most of the work. You know what I mean? Like that's not even 1% of what you got to do. It's like the difference between making a baby and raising a baby to the age of 18.
Yeah.
You know, you can make a, you know,
that's the idea.
Right. It takes 157,680 dedicated hours to raise a child to the age of 18, but you can make a baby in 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on how much time you take in the process, right? So ultimately, I would encourage people to make sure you understand that an idea doesn't mean anything until you breathe life into it. And breathing life requires thousands of dedicated hours of your time. So you can have a 1,000 different ideas, but there's only going to be maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 that you can raise all the way to fruition. Just like you could a person theoretically, a man could make 1,000 babies, but he can only raise a certain number of children. You know what I mean, in a proper way, right? So when you talk about raising your ideas, make sure you're mature about that. But then also the monetization piece, what that comes down to is something. The conversation I have with a lot of artists. I have a lot of hip hop artists that'll hit me up. And I tell them, my theory is that if you're in any kind of entertainment industry, anything, you should spend as much time studying business as you spend studying your art. I can think about 2 young artists that came to me. One of them, I'll say his name. The other one I won't, because I don't want to embarrass him. But one of them is D1. D1 is an artist. He's from the South, very intelligent young guy, man, and makes good music, doing really well. When we have conversations, we don't talk. I mean, he's in the studio. He's making music like everybody else, but he wants to know business. We're talking business. We're talking about distribution, monetization, ticket sales, marketing, all of that. The other guy makes just as much music as D1, but he don't want to do the business part. I'd be like, hey, well, check out, maybe you can check out some of the stuff. Here's some stuff that, that me and Dame were talking about, how he built Jay-Z up when nobody was checking for Jay-Z. And he's not interested in that. He's interested in the flashy part, being on stage, holding his nuts and all that. And it's like, okay, I mean, you're not learning the whole complete process. So you're going to always kind of be beholden to people who understand how this whole machine works. This is a business. And if you don't understand business and you go into this industry, you're probably going to be exploited or neglected or very frustrated. Things will happen that you'll never really understand. You'll see a lot of artists that don't understand, like, well, my music's good, why won't they release it? Or I'm really talented, why can't I get a deal? And it's all about knowing how the business is set up.
What are some key factors in the business that everybody needs to focus on when they're thinking about cranking up their business?
Well, I would say that, that the power, first of all, the power typically is held by the person that can get the money, right? And so, if you have some ability to get access to capital on some level, that gives you strength. Also, there's ways to build a brand or to build a distribution channel to build the business, by scaling down based on what you got, right? So when I start a new business, I don't go out and drop $80,000 trying to make it go. I might put $200 or $500 and just see if I even have a market. I test the market out. You see what I mean? And then if it works. If it works the same way you could take $1 million and turn it into $2 million, you should be able to take $10 and turn it into $20, right? Yeah. And that's what tells you if you got something, right? And so I would say that, just kind of seeing all of entertainment as production, distribution, monetization really goes a long way. What's production? Production is just the creation of whatever you're going to make, your album, your film, whatever. The distribution is getting it in front of people. How do you get it out there, right? In front of eyeballs. Monetization is, how do you turn fame into fortune, right? People talk about, people being rich and famous, but no, they don't always go together. There's a lot of people who are famous that are not rich. Broke. And it comes down to the ability to take that visibility and get the consumer to engage or to get something to happen that will allow you to monetize that. So whenever we put out a film or anything, we're always thinking, okay, what's the best monetization method? Do we let people in for free and make our money on the merch? Do we bundle the products a certain way? Do we charge for this and not charge for that? Do we do we get them to pay for this person and then tack this other thing onto that? You see what I mean? And the business people kind of know all of this, because a lot of times it's about how you skin the cat that really makes a difference in whether or not you're going to get access to what you're looking for.
Now, when you're thinking about the monetization part, do you think you should go corporate or go direct to consumer?
You know what? I think it depends on what your opportunities are and how it works. I had a conversation with an artist about that one time where he had already established the ability to sell, let's say, $200,000 or $300,000 worth of albums on his own, and he got offered a record deal. And I said, okay, so you got to ask yourself, what's the value added on this deal that they're offering you? You don't want to get a corporate deal just because, see, sometimes we feel better, like if we're signed, because corporate America kind of legitimizes us. It's like, I'm with Cash Money or I'm with so-and-so. So you start to feel like these labels kind of like, and I think black people, unfortunately, we're more susceptible to that because we need labels to feel validated, and I don't think that's healthy, but we do that sometimes. But truth is, there's some situations where what the corporation is going to do for you is something you could already do yourself. You know, in fact, you may be giving them more than they're giving you. So, for example, I had a radio network offer me the chance to do a show, and I said, okay, well, I can already do a show online myself and reach a lot of people. Like, what are you adding? And they were like, well, you know, we can't pay you that much, or the amount they were going to pay me was minimal, and the market wasn't that great. And I said, okay, so what you're doing is you're telling me you're going to eat up a lot of my time, utilize my audience, not compensate me, and, you know, and I don't really feel like I'm really getting anything from this, right? Now, if they had come up and said, well, you got the network and the distribution, we're going to come up with some money because you're already a proven commodity. You're not a nobody that has nothing, then that would make more sense. You see what I mean? So I think it's a matter of figuring out, you know, where you're at. Like, so for example, if I have no platform, then maybe corporate's better because they can give you that platform.
Yeah.
But if I've already got a platform that's working pretty well, like if I'm a guy like Prince E. I don't know if you've ever seen Prince E. This dude puts out videos and gets, you know, 30 million views, you know, and whatever, you know, he's already touring around the world just off of that. That I don't really see how a corporation, unless a corporation was really advanced in their thinking, could really offer a deal to him that would even entice him if he's monetizing that, even, you know, at a minimal level.
I mean, lastly, Doctor, the All Black National Convention, hit that one more time, man.
Yes, the All Black National Convention. We are going to get together and we're going to talk about all the issues that Black people need to talk about. We're also going to show 3 films. We're going to show Hidden Colors 4, Resurrecting Black Wall Street, and the third film is Generation 1, basically how to establish generational legacies in your family as it pertains to wealth. A lot of people don't know, for example, that 70% of wealthy families lose all their money within one generation. Right. So that's because you're not teaching your children everything you figured out in your hustle. So we're gonna be there for 3 days in Atlanta.
Give me a couple of those little nuggets that we got to teach these kids so they'll know what they're looking for.
A couple of things that kids need to learn in order to make sure they can build wealth and take care of the wealth they're given. Number one, knowledge. Every Black child in America should learn the fundamentals of entrepreneurship at a very early age. They should never be taught that they can only get a job. They should be taught how to create a job. The second is investment. Again, as I mentioned earlier, if you invest $100 a month for your child from the time they're born, by the time they're 30 to 40 years old, they'll have somewhere close to $1 million. The third component is discipline. It's actually KID. That's the model I use, KID, so people can remember. Discipline is the ability to delay gratification. They've shown that children who can delay gratification at an early age are more successful than other people 30, 40 years down the line. And so, long story short, you know, I would say that, you know, the kids that's the key. I mean, you know, we actually have a wealth building program for children at blackmillionairesoftomorrow.com that people can sign up for. And it's really popular. And basically, what we train our kids to do will create what I call the economic soldiers for the next generation. If we could train 50 to 100,000 Black children on the fundamentals of wealth building, entrepreneurship, and cooperative economics, that first 50,000 will employ the next 50 million. That's going to be the game changer. That will make us the envy of every other community out here. So that's what we focus on, man. So the All Black National Convention, which at allblacknationalconvention.com is where people can buy tickets. We also have a live stream, which you can find at drboycelivestream.com. That's drboycelivestream.com, where basically if you live somewhere else or you can't make it, you can actually watch the live stream. We're going to be there for 3 days. We're going to have panels on police brutality, wealth building, strengthening the Black man, strengthening the Black woman, another panel on the educational system, and a bunch of other things. And we got a lot of cool people. David Banner's coming out. Killer Mike will be there. Judge Olu Stevens, Dr. Tyra Selden, Dr. Roosevelt Mitchell III, Urema Karama. The list goes on and on. So it's going to be amazing.
Besides Atlanta, where else? What other cities will you be hitting?
You know what? We're not taking this anywhere else.
What?
Yeah. This is a convention. Right now, the plan is for us to do it
what's
one
going
time.
on here.
Yes, we gonna do it
be
one
a weekend
time.
by the end of it.
Yeah, we gonna do it one time right here. Now, I do have other events. Dr. Claude Anderson and I, the author of Powernomics, we're doing an event in D.C. in October, and I'm going to different cities doing my thing. But this is the only time where we're really actually pulling out all the guns and bringing everybody together to really do something special. Malik Shabazz is going, just eclectic groups of Black people. And the number one thing I want is, I just said, I told them what I don't want. I don't want the paid off Negroes to be there. I don't want the people that are too institutionalized that they've really lost touch of what reality is and what the truth is in terms of what we're facing as Black people. I want truth tellers there. So, it's going to be awesome. Zaza Ali's coming. I mean, a lot of people will be there. It's going to be great.
Doctor, thank you so much for coming through this thing, sir.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
Be high. It's Hot 107.9, man. Let's go.